It's Tuesday, day number 2 in the week, and boy, are we fired up because today is D-Day in Assin North. It's going to be exciting, and you know, for us being your election headquarters, we're going to be dropping it like it's hot right here on the AM show and throughout our programming for the day. My name is Benjamin Akakwa. I do this with Bernice Abubedu Lanza. Welcome aboard. Now, coming up right after the news, we'll be joined by energy analyst, also a flag bearer hopeful of the New Patriotic Party, Kwejo and Safwapoku. He is our guest as we get into the newspapers. And then from there, we'll be heading straight to Assin North after sports, that is. It has to do with the over 41,000 population that will be going to cast their ballot for a new Member of Parliament. That sounds a bit awkward, doesn't it? New Member of Parliament. They did have one, and he is in contention again, James Jache-Quayson, against Mr. Opoku of the NPP. But the question is, who will carry the day? There was a poll by Global Info Analytics which suggested that Charles Opoku had a slight edge of 1.1%, but with about 6% of voters undecided. How will it turn out? Well, we'll bring you the scoop on that as we engage our guests. We have a crack panel to get into the salient matters with you. But also on the show today, we commemorate World MSMEs Day. Now, this is a United Nations event to highlight the work of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And the day seeks to raise awareness on the contributions of these MSMEs towards the achievement of the SDGs and the challenges they face in a challenging global context. We'll bring you details of that later on the show. But as always, as we go heavy on the politics and the MSMEs and their relevance, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts with us via the phone when we activate them, and we shall, and of course, via the message stream when we go live. On that note, let's settle for the latest in the news up next. Welcome on the AM News. In our first story, the minority in Parliament is questioning the Inspector General of Police's directive for security detail of members of Parliament to surrender their weapons as part of an enhanced security plan towards the Asen North by-election. Now, a member of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament and Member of Parliament for South Dai, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekbo, says the IGP, apart from exposing the MPs to danger, has a sinister plan that appears to be working in the interest of the governing party in the Asen North by-election.
So out of the blue, to direct that the policemen who are attached to each member of parliament, whether you are in Asin Fosu or not, should surrender your weapon, amounts to varying the conditions of service of a member of parliament. And I think that the law does not permit him to do what he has done. If an IGP suddenly found a resource, apart from writing to me to fix his vehicles when they break down in my constituency, apart from asking people to help them to build police stations, furnish them, make donations in terms of logistics, but suddenly finds the resource to conduct health screening and tells the people that he's been sent by the president to do that, he will be motivated by other reasons to expose us to greater danger by taking the weapons away from the people who are supposed to protect us. What it means is that tomorrow, I shudder to anticipate what may happen tomorrow. Because for him to tell them that their weapons are withdrawn, it means I'm being protected by a policeman who has a stick in hand. And a policeman who has a stick in hand is incapacitated in the face of flying bullets. And so all MPs, especially minority MPs, are being exposed to greater danger from tonight.
But is it only affecting minority MPs or majority?
I saw nearly the 137 majority MPs.
You saw all of them?
I said I saw nearly all of them yesterday at the Breku Park when they had their rally. Each and every one of them had their security with their. Some now even have double weapons. The majority MPs and their security. Some of those securities guarding the majority, some have double weapons. So a bit, I saw police vehicles carrying chairs to MPP campaign center yesterday. Also suggests that the security protecting the speaker have also been asked to surrender their weapons.
Personally, will you tell your security, or will you tell your security to do
I have told my security not to surrender.
Why would you want your security to counter the directive?
Because the security man attached to me is part of my conditions of service.
And they are working under the IGP, and the IGP is issuing a directive.
Yes, I agree, but he's attached to me. His duty, first of all, is to the state and myself. He doesn't owe any duty to the IGP. He owes a duty to protect me.
Will the minority take this matter up?
We have taken the matter up. We have engaged at the highest level in the police service. But it appears that the IGP is adamant. And so we think that the IGP is complicit in any arrangement that will favor the NPP on the ground tomorrow, from tonight and tomorrow. I think the IGP, his conduct in this by-election speaks volumes. This is a man who cries every day that he has no logistics. Suddenly, he has commanded over 300 vehicles, police vehicles, and 3,000 policemen on the ground. The voter population in Assin North, as we speak, consists of 10% policemen. 10%. Everywhere you pass, you see men in uniform, in blue camouflage.
Is it not to enhance the security of the city?
What the voter population has seen is 40,000. Hold on, to 40,000. We have 99 polling stations. How do you deploy in excess of 3,000 policemen? Divide 3,000 by 99 and see how many policemen will be manning polling stations. If indeed the honest intention is to enhance security. In the meantime, we have a police command already present in the Assin North as a district. So let's be fair.
Well, on the back of that story, let's bring you some live footage. We cross over now to Assin North. My colleague Ohene Tewia is standing by. Ohene Tewia, what is the mood in Assin North this morning?
Thank you. All except for the by-election. I'm currently at one of the polling stations here at Enja. And a few minutes ago, when I told the other parts of the constituency, I realized that the Electoral Commission staff were ready. And even though it is not time yet for the elections to kickstart, residents have already queued up, hoping to cast their ballot. I was a bit surprised when I saw many of them trooping to the voting center. I thought perhaps they had come for a different mission, but when I approached the people, the message they gave me was that yes, they want to be here early enough to cast their ballot. So all these people you see here are already in the queue, waiting for the voting process itself to begin. Here you can also see the Electoral Commission staff prepping up, and also they are discussing a few things before the voting process kickstart. So I would say in the constituency, everything is set. And the police, who are also expected to provide security, are here in their numbers. I counted not less than 5 police officers manning this polling center here at Enja. Enja is one of the highly densely populated voter centers. So it happens to be over 400 voters expected to cast their ballot here. So all these people you see here have lined up, hoping that when the process starts at 7 a.m., they have the opportunity to cast their ballot. Let me find out from a few of them here who are here in their numbers. Papa, good morning.
Morning.
Obaha Brebe.
Obaha 4 something, 4 5.
Obaha 4 5. I didn't know about 4 5. Abra when him say about 1 year shas year 7.
Me bana ma beto ntem no menya kwan akọ baabi. Ani ntina mba ntem no.
Okay. Yanka, you've been says here to about through presidential elections and as a general elections, na man for a quantum pa could DQ mu na would a by election. Also abaha and opano na any JB or Hontrana.
Oh, I said, Kuna Bidinechi no, me donity and I'm a ban tentam.
Okay, so what he tells me is that he's been here at 5 a.m. For him, he wants to cast his ballot as early as possible so he can attend to other business. He also tells me he wants to be here early enough to beat other people in the queue, so he will be counted among the few people to cast their ballot here. And that's what Ben was about to Muntia. I say, what say, O'Brien, what that year, Bahano Panonine.
That's why I want to say, Papa na all Baba standing no. The Yanamwa, Nintina Ma, Yaba, Abaya Hosono, Tia Penasam, say about Tuamano. Okay,
so he's motivated by the fact that one of the candidates who is vying for the parliamentary seat here, so he wants to ensure that he gets elected at all costs, and that is why he is here early enough. Papa, good morning.
Good morning.
So Bahache.
Oh, me baha 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Ofi here now be do at 4 o'clock. Uti krom ha na se be ofi achi na oba.
Miti krom ha ya.
Na oba hantontom anwo na ha te say.
Oh, na ha se nti na ma share long sleeve na ma dress pass the entutum so enwe me. Na me say bi mu so be dika ba ha. A me ba me che wa ha. Nti na wo say me so me ba ntam. Se me ba nso me betu obi mu so wa ha.
Nti wo toso say e okinu.
Isi a me toso mi no.
O ba 4 no be to amanfo ha. Obedika be to obi a obedi na chi.
Ba me omo to omo ha na che say omo ye police fo ni omo ba be hwe adwuma no so no. And I say,
so this man tells me because he understands the weather condition here, he's dressed up for the occasion. He knew mosquitoes could be around to disturb him, so he dressed up to meet the frustrations of these mosquitoes. So he's the second person to have arrived at this polling station here. He's the second man in the queue. Yes, he's ever ready to take part in today's voting process. Papa, also by Habreben.
Oh, maybe do have 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, I'm matching and be do.
Until Otos to say, I will kill him.
I'm a toss of me, sir.
I didn't necessarily sorry 4 o'clock. I dey on pass now to me now.
Me to me that pa because you puntu na kechi because of nobody here on Abu James Jachi question inti. Inti amaya ni asole say ye ma yimpuntu on kechi sa. I was here sole. Na ye betcha ya dwene hu se ye mpuntuo na aka akire no ye pese ye nsa ka mpuntuo de back anu ntina nam so am sorry for o'clock ba begina because be hwa Assin North ha masa se na papa ya da wolo ma aye school yesi ya wa wode wani hu papa ne be boss ma ye ye anu marketing bia
ti wo de obeto aba no esan se o pre mpuntuo ewo ompotam ha
me pempuntuo ntia wa say am solid tam na beto aba pempuntuo.
All right, so he's also motivated by the fact that he wants to see development in the Assin North constituency, so that explains why he got up from home and got here at 4 a.m. To also take part in this voting process. Mami mpani for small bahantam pa mami mache. Now what to say?
Me hoye.
Awo minim se sa abre de nka wada ade na no pass abre wugina hey.
Ye beto menti na me ya balo. Ye pe Ghana man ko so. Sama ya ba ye beto malo.
Na mami what do you feel say?
Me ya 73.
All right, so Ben, this woman here is 73 years old. She tells me she's been here in the morning enough to cast his ballot because he wants to push the development agenda of this area. And he's not the only person in this queue. You could see some elderly persons, some who cannot stand and have taken to the steps here to also take some rest. Let me speak to some of them here because they seems to be so much interested in today's voting process. I will march in. I will now pass you in the same.
You didn't the mayor, sir.
You, Mammy Mary, sir. What also say, oh, a lie.
It also me.
Let's just say, Oba Hatche, and I say,
My name Papa and by.
Mammy Mary, sir, is also Mary Asari is second in the queue here. Adentina, Overcase, Umfio ko anyway. Uniki mu what you way.
Menai ni fan ya me to minante.
Okay, so she has a problem with the legs, and because of the pain in the limbs, she decided to take some rest on this particular step so he can also take part in the exercise. She is second in the queue here. So there's a long winding queue at Asin North polling center here. It's one of the polling centers with a high number of registered voters. I can see many of the elderly persons who have also joined the queue. So they are here in their numbers to participate in today's by-election. Let me find out from this woman here. Mommy, good morning. Good morning.
Fine morning.
Ada officer who DQ mo akwato aba.
That me sha na me magin wo.
O to so say o queue mu.
It was 17.
Mate, me da say. Enti o sorry brebe na oba he.
Mo me sole 4:30. The sat is here na me ba ha. Tell me so the mama na is here be pass 6:20 na me ba ha.
All right, so Ben, that has been the situation from the Asin North polling station here. Many of the voters have already joined the queue, though the voting process will start at 7 a.m. So I can say that all is set for today's exercise, and residents are eager to take part in the exercise.
And that is my colleague Ohiming Teria reporting live from Asin North. On now to our next story. Residents of Santo Kofi, Lolobi, Bori and Akpafu are kicking against government's intention to mine iron ore in these areas. They say any attempt by the state to start mining in the area will greatly affect their socio-economic lives. Peter Senu has more in this report.
4 communities from Santo Kofi, Akpafu, Lolobi and Bori have declared their intention not to allow government or any entity to mine iron ore deposits in these areas. Their concerns are born from what is currently happening in mining communities in Ghana, where water bodies are heavily polluted with other social and economic negative impacts of mining. For the residents, it is a no to mining from all fronts. The 4 communities have therefore formed an anti-iron ore mining committee to have a common voice to protect their communities and heritage. Emma Amuzu is one of the concerned women. As peasants, she says their livelihood, which is farming, would be jeopardized greatly.
We've seen what is happening in Ghana, especially Ashanti and other areas, the way the mining is destroying a lot of things. So here, the only job our parents do is farming. And then we have these beautiful mountains up here. If we allow them to come and mine here, then they will destroy our land, they will destroy our farming areas. We wouldn't have anything, any place to farm again. This is the main reason why we said no, we don't want, because we want the beautiful forest and the mountain to remain there as it was before our forefathers left. And so we are here, especially me, on behalf of the women, saying that no.
Samuel Tete is a metallurgical engineer and has 20 years mining industry experience and hails from the area. He provided some industry experience but wants government to engage communities so as to win their trust before providing any permits or licenses on mining in these areas.
As a technical person, a lot of stakeholder engagement is needed, where the communities will have to be told the bare truth. Looking at it in context, the benefit to the community in terms of social infrastructure, maybe they will build schools, build roads, build hospitals, but the effect is that the community will be hungry, their agriculture will be adversely affected, and the source of rainfall, drinking water, their sources of water all originate from these mountains. soon as you disturb the land area, you expose the minerals to rain. So even if you tell the community you drill boreholes, have you looked at the effect of the pollution of surface mining into the underground water? Aside that, what will be the effect of dust, fugitive dust? If you breathe it in, what is the health effect of airborne diseases on the community? This is where I am coming from.
But why are residents in these areas not interested in developing their communities through mining? Here is Emma again.
What development are we seeing? We are not seeing any development. And for that matter, we cannot stand here today and say, yes, mining brings development. What development is it bringing in the Ashanti region, Western region, etc., etc.? We cannot allow anybody to come and destroy our forests and then our farms. If there is a development, we would have been seeing it already. Charity begins at home. And for that matter, we can't stand here now and believe any government that, yes, they will come and then mine here and then bring development. What sort of development, for heaven's sake?
Now, the lack of financial clearance is affecting academic work at the St. Monica's College of Education in the Ashanti region. The college has lost some key authorities to retirement. Now, principal of the institution, Dr. Ochre Kranche, says the college needs to recruit 12 teaching and 18 non-teaching staff to supplement the current staff strength for optimal performance. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin has more.
And the council chair of this noble institution.
The college currently has 38 staff instead of at least 50 to teach 1,800 students.
Yes, as at now, the whole college we have 38 tutors teaching. In fact, when I took over about 2 years ago, we had 42. And the number has gone down to 38. But world standard prescribed that in tertiary education, every teacher maximum should have, every tutor or lecturer should have a maximum of about 40 students to teach. But our case is not like that. The teacher-student ratio is very high. And all these things do not augur well for our teaching and learning. So we are praying that government give us financial clearance so that we'll be able to recruit more teachers to augment what we have so that our teaching and learning will go on well.
Dr. Koranchi believes the college has no choice but to convert management staff to teach the students if the government fails to address the situation.
As at now, you heard that the situation demands that even the council chair was saying that even areas that he can help, we should invite him to come and help. So everybody, management members who can teach are teaching. So we are using those tools, and we are using IGF also to get other people on board to support in the teaching. That's what we have been doing for this time.
According to the college, it is committed to raising teaching and learning standards and will pursue policies and initiatives that will help students maintain their excellence. The academic board has added mathematics and information and communication technology to the junior high school program as specialized courses.
As part of our intention to participate in the promotion of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM education agenda of our dear country, and to develop confidence of the female teacher in the teaching and specialization in the STEM course, the academic board, consultation with council, has introduced mathematics and ICT as one of the specialized courses of the SHS program. This year, 11 level 100 students were offered admission to pursue mathematics and ICT as an elective course under the JHS program.
guest speaker, Dr. Irene Kafue-Vosa Amponsa of the Department of Statistics at the University of Cape Coast advises the all-female graduates to use their voices to challenge systemic barriers that hinder girls' access to quality STEM education. She encourages them to preserve and break through the glass ceilings that limit female representation in STEM.
My dear graduating students, your impact is not limited to the classroom, not at all. You have the opportunity to advocate for change and be a catalyst for progress. Use your voice to challenge systemic barriers that hinder girls' access to quality STEM education. Collaborate with educational institutions, policy makers. We are thankful the minister is here. And community organizations to develop initiatives and programs that encourage girls' participation in STEM.
One of the visible challenges we encountered was academic pressure.
The overall best student, Anna Frimpong, emphasizes that her success came from her determination.
And today I was able to achieve this great academic feat as a result of one thing I've always learned from JHS, that once you teach, you learn. And so one of the things I did on campus was to teach my colleagues who were finding difficulty in areas, some of the courses we were offering. Whenever they came, anytime, anywhere, I was willing to teach them, and that was one thing that really helped me to achieve this feat.
A report by Mohammed Noordin.
How it went. And on that educational note, we cap off the news. But up next, the news review. Do stay. Well, welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to get into the news review, and energy analyst, also a flag bearer hopeful of the MPP, Kwejo Nsafwa-Poku, is our guest. Before we get to him, let's just let you know, of course, the segment always supported, brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. If you're a man, they're offering you prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, they're offering you fertility screening gratis, completely free. If you don't know your status, if you don't know what is going on in your reproductive organs, you really ought to take a look. As for the prostate, many people take it for granted before they realize there are issues to deal with. For women nowadays, fibroids and so many things, you need to know your fertility status. No, if you're okay, you're good to go. If there are issues, stem the tide of those right from the onset. And that is why you ought to reach out to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic at any of their branches dotted across the country. Here's where you can locate them. In Accra, they're at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, they are in Kronum Abuehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. Back in the Greater Accra region, they are in Tema Community 22. There's also Takrade and Naji State. There's Techim and Hanswa and Siama in Zimbabwe. If you should want to call them, and I think you should do that, the number to call 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Leading us to the commencement of the news review. Mr. Poku, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm well. I see you're back home.
Yes, I've been back since last week. When we had the show last week, I was home.
Okay. Well, it's good to have you back. Since I didn't quite catch that.
Sir, please repeat that.
I didn't catch the last statement. You said something. I didn't catch it.
Oh, I said last week I was home. It was the week before last that I was in Kumasi when we had the show.
Oh, right. Well, welcome back. Now, let's start off from the dynamics in your party. You see everything that's going. There's this rumor in the mill, okay? There's this thing going around the rumor mill that the plan is to, apart from the 5 of you, likely whoever, when going through the screening, emerges when the superdelegates vote, may be put forward as the ultimate candidate to represent your party against the NDC and the other parties in the 2024 election. What is your reflection on that? If it pans out that they say, you know what, the rest of you should step aside, since this person has emerged with the highest number of votes, let that person go ahead for the sake of unity. How would you feel about that?
Well, Ben, as you said, it's rumor, and rumors are treated with the contempt that it deserves. But
sometimes rumor in these political circles can have some fire with them.
Let me just humor you with the conversation. Like I said, it's rumor, but let me just humor you with the conversation. Look, this party, right, it's a dynamic party. It is guided by constitution. When people say that when you are told or who will tell? There is nobody in this party that will be able to gather 10 strong men like us.
You say the party is guided by the constitution and this and that, yet your party at some point was telling some members of parliament, in fact, in their constituencies, primaries were not to be held because they wanted those people to remain at post, to go uncontested. Is that in your party's constitution?
But you see, when you hear those things, find out that the process take place. You see, the process always takes place. The fact that one person ends up at the end of the process doesn't mean that the process is stopped. We have 2 elections ahead of us. There are 10 people that has filed, and by God's grace, all 10 will go through vetting. I don't see how vetting is going to take out 5 people. It's not possible, right? So all 10 will go through vetting because all 10 of us who are filed are strong standing members of the party. Now, when we go through vetting, there is going to be the August 26 election, which is the superdelegate. That is going to happen. There's going to be 5 strong men who would emerge as leaders. Now, bear in mind, the August 26 election, which is the superdelegate college, is only made up of not more than 900 people. The November election is made up of 230,000 grassroots support of this party. There is no way, no imagination that somebody will sit somewhere and say that deny the 230,000 grassroots support of this party the chance to choose their own leader. It's not possible. Anybody who thinks they have the power to do that is dreaming. I'm being honest with you.
Interest of the party, in the interest of the party, anything is possible, and you may then be left with the legal option.
My dear, the interest of the party is the grassroots. They are the party, not the few that sit at the top. The party is the 230,000 people. They are the party. Okay, so in their interest, we should let them vote.
If that were to happen, Kojo, let's make tracks on this. If that were to happen, what would be the options that you would trigger? Because, like I'm telling you, it's percolating in political circles, and sometimes we know how this politics goes.
Ben, if what was to happen, I don't get that part.
I'm saying that if after the entire process, going through the superdelegates and all of that, some decision was made that this person has emerged the topmost contender, so all the rest of you, let's support this person ahead of election 2024. What would you do?
Okay. Look, Ben, what I'm saying to you is that decision can only be made by the aspirants, not somebody outside that circle. It is us who decide whether we'll do the election or not. If I, Kojo Poku, decide to pull out today, then there's 9 people. If the others decide to pull out, then there is 7 people. Nobody outside the rim of the aspirant can decide who step out. So let's not entertain that conversation. For me, if there is going to be any consensus, if there's going to be any conversation, it will be done among the aspirants, not outside the aspirants. Anybody outside that circle doesn't have a right, doesn't have a locus, doesn't have anything. They can only suggest. It's a suggestion.
How in touch are you with the leadership of the party, of your party, the administrative leadership, I mean?
I am very close to the chairman of the party. I'm very close to the secretary of the party. I'm very close to the people that I need to be close with, but I don't know which leadership you are talking about.
All right. I'll leave it there. Asin North is going down today. And when I say going down, I basically mean the election is taking place today. It is D-Day. And there's a lot of interest there. The police presence is huge. About 93 polling centers or stations with over 3,000 police officers. That's quite a number. Some people have said it's also an attempt to skew things a certain way or to create or to sow the seed of fear in some people. The IGP was there yesterday. Now, the election is happening today. We've already interacted on the AM News. We interacted with some of the people who would likely vote, expressing certain sentiments. But for you, what are your expectations in Assin North? It's a swing constituency, but the NDC has its grasp on it. What's your reading?
I'm happy you put the word swing. You know, not a lot of groundwork. We learned from our mistakes in 2020. We've realized the areas and communities that we did not do well. For the last 3 weeks, there's been more than enough boots on the ground to basically make sure that we fine-tune all those areas that we didn't do well the last time. And like you said, it will swing this way this time. The MPP will take the seat. I know it's a tough battle that we are fighting, but we are very, very hopeful that we've been able to do enough work in the last 3 weeks to be able to take that seat today.
In 6.5 years, the people are lamenting the situation. This will be my final bit on this, and then we'll get into the papers. In 6.5 years, the people are lamenting the underdevelopment, not because look at it, you don't have a parliamentary candidate there, fine, but you have a DCE or an MCE in that area. They are actually the true agents of development, not the parliamentarian. Now, some have also said that while James Gyakye did quite a bit there, his work has been hobbled by the court cases and the back and forth. So tell me, what sort of development now would the MPP be bringing? You've had 6.5 years to do that. The people don't seem to agree.
Well, my dear, this developmental issue is not only peculiar to only one constituency. It's a 275 constituency problem. We have limited resources that has to go around the country. The party and Nanado's-led government is doing its best to basically bring to Ghanaians the development that they deserve. We are not resting on our laurels. We're basically trying our best as a government which has a mandate till 2024. Whatever is due them, they will get it. I have always said that the DCs and the MCs in some parts of the country are not doing their best. And that has got nothing to do with appointing authority. I think when you're appointed as an MC and as a DCE, you have your internally generated fund as the IGF, you have the common fund, and you have ways to basically make sure that the people in your community are basically well looked after and then their problems addressed. Not all of them are living up to that expectation, admitted. But it doesn't mean that it's the fault of anybody. It's the fault of those people that are put in place. And that is why I have always made local government the foundation of my message, that we need to change the way local governments are run. So look, we are doing best. We are doing our best. We are doing well. I think that going forward, we will learn from the mistakes. We have boots on the ground. We've listened to the people. We know what has happened is wrong, and going forward, we will try and do our best. But look, development is a 275 constituency problem. It's not just one constituency problem.
Well, let's get into the papers now. We'll start with the Daily Graphic. Ghana will achieve debt sustainability. Chinese envoy says so. Interesting. Now, others have to tell us when we will achieve debt sustainability, or if we shall do that. Botswana delegation visits Jospon Group's waste treatment plants. Speaker attacks politics of monetization. $7 million food security projects launched. Special supplement on Eid al-Adha, and that is inside. But then Assin North by-election today. Police deploy drones to complement security measures. EC prepares against rainfall. So let's get into the details. The Ghana Police Service will deploy drones at conflict-prone areas in the Assin North constituency to capture situations of conflict and violence in real time during today's by-election. Also, absolutely no weapon will be allowed at the polling stations in an election which would be supervised strictly by regular police personnel. These are part of security measures the Ghana Police Service has taken to ensure a violence-free election. They are part of the ground rules established for the by-election during a meeting at Asin Breku yesterday with leaders of the political parties and the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare. Now, security in the constituency has been beefed up extremely, with thousands of police personnel deployed to the area to ensure today's by-election is peaceful. Addressing the media personnel shortly after the meeting, Dr. Dampare explained that no motorbikes would be allowed at polling stations. Again, voters would not be allowed to take mobile phones into the voting booths. You know, there's been this habit of capturing your vote with a camera or a phone and all of that. Again, the IGP indicated that the meeting agreed that the party paraphernalia were also not allowed at the polling centers. Of course, this from time immemorial, it has been the case that you shouldn't come to a polling station or around or its environs with a branded political party shirt or paraphernalia. Well, there's also this bit. Okofo Berima urged Okofo Chum Berima, by the way, the traditional authorities there, urged the security personnel to ensure that there was a conducive environment to allow constituents to exercise their franchise. And there's more, but the EC, the Central Regional Director of the EC, Gladys Pinkra, told the Daily Graphic the polling stations were located mostly in schools, which meant that the rain would not affect voting at these centers. Any quick thoughts on these arrangements and the heavy police presence in Asin?
Well, it's a good thing. I like the bit where nobody's allowed phones into the boothing area. I think we should make that the law, and we should make that the norm in this country, that we don't allow phones to be taken into voting booths. It's creating a bit of a problem. Go and vote and show me who you voted for. It takes away the fundamentals of voting. Voting is supposed to be a secret ballot. So I think it should be a norm that no phones should be allowed in anywhere going forward. No type of voting should have anybody take phones into voting booth. I think if we can do that, it will help with our democracy. Look, the police presence is very important. We've gotten news of some pockets of people trying to create disturbances today. I hope it doesn't happen. I think that we should just have people express who they want their MP to be. There's no need for violence. The police have basically been in the forefront by deploying drones, as you have mentioned. All these are good news. My only challenge is that we need to basically have intelligence. One of the things that I think in this country we are not basically being on the forefront of is intelligence. We should be able to have enough intelligence on the ground to weed out these problems before it even occurs. So I think, look, they are doing well, and we hope we will have a very vibrant, free and fair election today.
Let's get to page 16 very quickly. Speaker attacks politics of monetization. Now, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman, has bemoaned the high level of monetization of politics in our country. He explained that such was the situation that some writers had christened Ghana's democracy moneycracy. Conscience is on sale, he is quoted to have said. Truth and honesty are scarce commodities. Elections have been reduced to a farce, open auctions where the highest bidder wins. Now, speaking in an interview with the Daily Graphic, Mr. Bagman said there was pervasive disregard for the law and order with impunity. Vigilantism, gangsterism, and the use of hoodlums are gradually becoming a norm of competitive politics. And he's also quoted to have said, like I mentioned, conscience is on sale, truth and honesty are scarce commodities, elections have been reduced to a farce, open auctions where the highest bidder wins. Two things come to mind. The last, the Congress of the NDC, where we saw that lady, I've forgotten in which constituency, the primaries, and how she was doling out money from her vehicle. She said she found the money in her vehicle. Twice she did that. The most recent one in Assin North, Chairman Wuntumi of the MPP, dishing his hands into his batakari and bringing out wads of money and distributing them. I mean, I interacted with Henry Nanabuache, the national organizer of your party, and he felt, oh, that was, and TNT and this and those things are allowed. Well, they boil down to the very same things we're talking about. I don't know what your reading is on that. Very quickly, Kojo.
Well, my brother, you mentioned the lady that was throwing money from the car. What happened to her? Have you guys followed up? Has anybody followed up what happened?
I know she had some invitation. Nothing. I don't know whether it was from the OSP, if memory serves.
No, look, nothing happened. We treat these things with the contempt that it deserves.
Or maybe the contempt it doesn't deserve. Maybe rather the contempt it doesn't deserve. That's how we treat them.
Well, the contempt it doesn't deserve, right? Thank you for that. Yeah, the contempt it doesn't deserve. But basically, nothing happens after that, okay? The point is the speaker who sits at the where laws are made, the MPs who are affected 100% by these monetization of our politics, so to speak, as the speaker puts it out there, and they don't want to do anything about it. So who will do something about it? That's the bit I'm confused. The guy who has the guy who has the handle to do something about what's going on is complaining. The MPs are complaining. So who does something about it? Because that's the bit I get confused. If the speaker feels strongly about it, and I'm sure the MPs in the House of Parliament feel strongly about it, they should sit and let's find a way to resolve this problem. Because it is dire, it is bad. Because as we are about to enter this season of basically us, the presidential aspirants going out there are people who are blatantly asking you for this or that. And if you don't, then they get upset, okay? Because they feel entitled. They feel that, well, that's what everybody is doing, okay? But like I said, I don't have that money to give. But the point is, some people are giving it. The MPs are being asked that, oh, if you want to be an MP in this area, each delegate will ask you for this or that one. If you don't have, don't come. Okay? And people who are good materials are being deterred from contesting some of these seats because there is a seemingly price or there's a perceived price on some of these seats. Is that the right way to go? It's not. So the speaker who is speaking, the members of parliament, they should do something about it because they make the laws of this land. If they don't, then we should just basically move on.
All right, let's get into some other stories now. And Ghana will achieve debt sustainability, Chinese envoy. The Chinese government has given an assurance that it will work with its Ghanaian counterpart to ensure that Ghana achieves debt sustainability. China said it remained Ghana's biggest trading partner and major investment source and would therefore join hands to deliver tangible benefits to the people of Ghana. I find it interesting when foreign powers tell us how things will go within our own borders, when we ourselves cannot determine. Sometimes we must feed on data from the IMF and the World Bank. Let me just make my point, Kojo. So I'm just saying that Ghana will achieve debt sustainability. It is not in the mouth of the Chinese or the Americans or the British or whoever to tell us that. We've become so saddled with debt and influence that we cannot even speak for ourselves in a certain light. And I find that problematic. Go ahead, Kojo.
But your debt is with them. I mean, your debt is not with yourself. The reason they are the one to speak is that your debt is with them. So your debt is China is one of the biggest indebtors.
Our debt may be with them, but it is how we manage that debt that determines sustainability. Well, it is not they who will work to determine the sustainability.
That is a different conversation. No, debt sustainability is to do with debt restructuring. And debt restructuring is with the person you owe. So that is why the Chinese envoy is telling everybody that, yes, China will work with you to basically make sure that the debt is restructured and you would attain debt sustainability. My point and my problem is going forward, what are the situations put in place by them to make sure that we don't get back there? Because obviously, you keep hearing this thing, oh, we'll go back to the capital market very soon. Oh, we'll go back to borrowing very soon. Oh, we are improving. We are back on track. So the mindset in the Ministry of Finance, I have seen a document which actually talks about how quickly we'll be going back to the debt markets, okay? So it tells you that the focus is that we need to borrow to improve the nation, which for me, I disagree. I think we need to save. We need to put prudent measures on the ground to reverse the huge expenditure that we have. Because the problem in Ghana is the big expenditure gap as compared to revenue, which has been the situation that led us to where we are. So if we are able to put a draw on our expenditure, which is our appetite for all these huge gargantuan projects. So the Chinese have a role to play in your debt sustainability. That's why they are talking about it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I do not say that they do not have a role to play. I'm just saying that many a time we have external forces telling us how things will go when they may pull the purse strings, but we do the management. And if we get the management right, that is when we'll achieve debt sustainability. But let's breeze through these stories. House to debate anti-gay bill. 5 ministers respond to questions, and the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagman, has directed the Business Committee of the House to schedule a debate on the promotion of proper sexual human rights and Ghanaian family values bill 2021 for either today or Thursday. The bill was presented to Parliament on March the 31st, 2023 by the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. We all know the details, and 5 ministers are to appear. They are the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Shirley Ayoko Boche, Minister of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Brian Echampo, Minister of Energy, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, and Minister of Roads and Highways, Kwesi Amwako Atta as well. And that is that for the Daily Graphic. Maybe quick thoughts on that one, and then I'll bring in 2 stories from the Daily Guide and the Graphic Business.
Well, look, I have always said that those laws and those bills are long overdue. In terms of the old enactments that we had, our old constitution, our acts of parliament and all that, we don't have something that deals properly and puts the new development in the world order in context. I think that every law has to be a breathing being. So as the world changes around us, we need to basically enact law that help us keep up with those things. Look, I don't think in Ghana, everybody, I don't think anybody has gone around lynching, insulting, or trying to do harm to somebody who they feel belongs to the LGBTQ community. We don't do that in this country, okay? Since I was a kid, we have known Kojo Besia ever since, okay? And nobody does anything to them. Nobody beats them, but it's all become as if that we are hostile towards that community. We are not. You know, they in the West, there were times that they would beat, jail, and lynch somebody in that community. We have always lived with those people in our community. So I find it very strange that all of a sudden we are being lectured to as a nation as if we are hostile to people in that community.
Should this bill be passed? There have been some alterations. Should it be passed? Are you pushing for the bill to be passed into law?
Oh, if the members of parliament, deem it fit that is a bill that needs to be passed, yes, it should be passed. They are our people representatives.
If you were a member of parliament, would you vote for the bill?
Yes, I will vote for the bill. I haven't read it, but I have to read it and vote for it. Because I think, like I said earlier, we need to basically keep up pace with the evolving world around us. I am 100% not for people blatantly pushing certain things in our face. And I think that should stop. Ghana is a peaceful country, and we don't intend to basically go the route just because certain people think that they want to do certain things. We are not hostile to that community.
Right.
So nobody should shove certain things down our throat. That's my position on these things.
On the back page, petroleum gas tanker drivers declare strike over poor roads. Yesterday, we had an interaction with their head. Dabwase drowning tragedy, 3rd body retrieved. But then these 2 stories I want you to focus on. I'll take a look at the headlines from these newspapers, but many of those stories we've already seen. The Daily Guide, D-Day at Assin North, all set for Collins Dauda others trial. Organized labor declares strike July 10. But this story I want to focus on. Start cash movement with armored cars. Bank of Ghana orders. That story is on page 6 of the Daily Guide. Let me take a look at it. So, there it is. In response to the recent armed robberies during cash movements, the Bank of Ghana has issued a directive to all banks in the country to immediately start using armored-plated bullion vans for cash transportation. The directive carries a warning that failure to comply will result in severe sanctions. Now, the Bank of Ghana's directive comes just days after a tragic incident in which a police officer, Corporal Callistus Amwa, was killed by armed robbers in the suburb of Ablekuma in Accra. The officer was shot multiple times at close range, and the robbers made away with his gun and an undisclosed sum of money. That is the first story. The second one, it's in the Graphic Business. IPPs demand 30% of $1.4 billion debt to keep lights on, kick against debt restructuring. And even before government presents a formal proposal to independent power producers on how it intends to restructure a $1.4 billion debt in a second round of domestic debt rationalization, the group of 6 say any debt restructuring decision or discussion, quote, is off the table. Consequently, The IPPs have made a demand for the government to immediately pay 30% of the debt. That amounts to about 450 million, 420 million thereabouts of the debt, noting that the failure to do so would mean they can't guarantee power supplies beyond June the 30th, 2023. That's just about 3 days away. Now, this stance by the IPPs have sparked fears of an impending load-shedding exercise and also threatened government's objectives of reforming the energy sector under the Extended Credit Facility Program with the International Monetary Fund. What is your take on this, especially as recently we were talking about Dumso being able to see a resurgence? Quick reflections on these two stories.
Well, where I sit as somebody who knows the in and out of the energy sector, I have always said that I honestly don't think that the IPPs are going to pull the plug. Though it's unfair that they are being treated the way they are being treated, but the law, the agreement which they signed makes it difficult for them to pull the plug. If they pull the plug, and then it benefits the government if they pull the plug. And I'll explain why in a minute. Look, in the power purchase agreement, all the IPPs are given a guarantee. On that guarantee is what you call on when there is a level of indebtedness. Now, the minute you draw on that guarantee, it leads to the termination of your PPA. Now, bear in mind, the power purchase agreement, which is the PPA that all these IPP have, has what you call the take and pay. Okay? Take or pay. Has the take or pay. Government wants to renegotiate these agreements and make it take and pay. So they want to go away from the take or pay to take and pay, which means that you have the plant in this country. You have an agreement which you are trying to protect. If government owes you, and you think that by virtue of government owing you, you are going to call on the guarantee and as a result shut your plant and not produce power, that's fine. That's your right. But then what happens next? After government has now paid you your money, you can't let the plant sit there. You might want another agreement to operate. And at that point, government will not give you your old agreement back. You will now be given a different agreement. So it is not in their interest to threaten. It's not in their interest to say that they are going to shut the lights off, because there are legal ramifications if they decide to do that, because they have an agreement which obliges them to produce power to the country. There is a process by which they have to go through to shut out the lights. And that means they have to call on a guarantee. And by calling on a guarantee leads to the abrogation of, they basically terminate the PPA and as a result shut the light off. Now, let me address the problem. It's unfair that
let's ask you this. Where we are now on the IPPs, how bad is our situation? How bad is it?
It's very bad. It's very bad because they need to be paid. They need liquidity. You can't run a business without having the liquidity that you deserve. And they have commitment to financial institutions that they have to pay. So it is bad, and it is a situation that needs to be addressed with. I have advised ECG to go for a bullet payment of about $500 million, pay them off, and then restructure the balance. But look, that is up to the MD and ECG if they want to basically take that advice, okay? It is not, ECG keeps saying that, Ministry of Finance, government. No, you are a private institution. Though you are owned by government, you are a state-owned enterprise. It's your organization. Your board can make that decision. Right. That you want to go out there and borrow about $500 million and basically pay off your indebtedness. It's not always about running to the Ministry of Finance and always running to the Jubilee House for support. Because as we all know, the Ministry of Finance don't have the money. Okay.
On the second point, very quickly, we have to go. The bullion vans, very quickly.
Well, the bullion vans, I think the banks are just happy to make profits and not invest in in what their logistics are.
Okay.
The bullion vans are expensive. With armor plates are expensive, but that doesn't take away the fact that the banks makes a lot of money. Okay, so the banks can afford to buy these armor-plated bullion vans. In Nigeria, they have them. All these Nigerian banks in Ghana come into Ghana and they use these pickups to transport money, which is wrong. So the bank should invest in their logistics. So they should buy those armor-plated bullion vans.
All right. Thank you very much, Kojo Poku. But just to be fair, if you say these Nigerian banks, they come here and they do that, there are Ghanaian established banks too that have been doing same. So let's be fair to all quarters, not singling out just the Nigerians.
I'm saying that the practice in Nigeria for them, the UBAs and the Zenith, they use armor-plated bullion vans.
Bullion vans there, right. Right.
Yes. So when you came to Nigeria, you continue that practice. That's the point I'm making.
All right. Kojo, thank you so much, and we wish you the very best of the day. Energy analyst Kojo Nsafwa Poku, also a flag bearer hopeful of the NPP. He was our guest. The segment was brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. Here's where you can locate them. At across Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, there's Kumasi Kronoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Siama and Zema. If you'd like to reach them, these are the numbers to call: 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of sports. Up next, do stay.
Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Hello, I'm Gary Al Smith with the sport. We start with the ongoing Under-23 Cup of Nations, where Ghana will take on the host nation, Morocco, in their second group match. A win for the Black Meteors advances them to the last four of the competition. And ahead of today's kickoff, Coach Ibrahim Tanko and goalkeeper Ibrahim Danlad have assured Ghanaians of an improved performance from what was seen against Congo on match day one.
I think I'm happy we have 3 points, but at the same time, I'm very angry about my players. And to receive 2 goals after 90 minutes is unacceptable. But I mean, we have to do the changes. Our centre back is feeling tired.
Points well made. They've realized their mistakes. They are going to work on it as they face Morocco today. What does the table look like? As I said, should the team win, they will advance, and this is why. They are top currently behind Morocco, ahead of Morocco, even though both teams have 3 points. Morocco, of course, won the opening game of the tournament by 2-1. Congo play Guinea today as well, as they aim, both of the two sides aim to be one of the teams that will advance to the next round. Okay, so at the Ghana Football Awards this weekend, a very, very important part of Ghana's football history was honored. When was the last time you heard the name Alberta Saki? Yes. At a point in time, she was queen of all she surveyed. So good she was that in 2002, she was adjudged African Women's Footballer of the Year. Remember, Alberta Saki was not just a football player. She played for the Ghana national netball team. She played for the Ghana national handball team, all while playing for the Ghana national women's football team, the Black Queens. She went all the way to captain the side, and she played from 1995 to 2003. She's 50 years now, and the Ghana Football Awards conferred the Living Legend Award on her this weekend. This is Alberta Saki's response.
Hi, my name is Alberta Saki. It's unfortunate I can't be there to celebrate this award with you in person, but I am very, very pleased, honored and humbled to accept this award. A very special thanks to the board for selecting me. A special salute to all those who nominated me and supported my nomination. Thanks and thanks and thanks again for noticing the talent in me. Bye.
Bye, Alberta. She's looking good, isn't she? But for those of you who have longer memories, Alberta was always eloquent, always vivacious, and very, very, very pleasant as well. She lives in the United States now, and looking back on her career, you might recall that she was an integral part of the 2003 Ghana team that played at the FIFA Women's World Cup. In fact, her goal against Australia was adjudged and has been adjudged one of the greatest goals in the history of the FIFA Women's World Cup. From one former Ghana captain to another, Asamoah Gyan played for Ghana over a period of 16 years. In that time, he had some phenomenal highs and he had some crushing lows. But the former captain says he has never felt really respected. In fact, he had never felt so disrespected and felt so disrespected that he never believed that this country will celebrate him as much as has been done in the last week. He was eulogized on the floor of Parliament last week when MPs took their turn to honor Gyan, who is Ghana's top scorer of all time, following his retirement from professional football. The former Sunderland striker said his heart is finally at peace.
Even me answering this question, I'm being very emotional because since childhood to now, I've never seen Parliament discussing a player. So I feel very, very honored and appreciative because what they did, honestly, I didn't see till my friends sent me the video. People calling me, and I saw everything. And I would like to thank Parliament. I would like to thank Honorable Ano for him raising this issue, this topic. And I saw him, and the way he was talking, and I felt like he's a big fan. Before I would say no, because there were a lot of disrespect, and sometimes I go on social media and a lot of disrespect, and I felt like I'm one of those guys who put Ghana on the map, and the masses can also confirm. But seeing what went on in Parliament, I'm now beginning to understand. I'm now beginning to feel appreciated by Ghanaians. I don't really care about what people say a lot, but Parliament has confirmed, and I'm sure the masses also know in their heart I should be celebrated. I always say the numbers don't lie. I always say it, and now I would say, yeah, people really appreciate what I have done, because in our discussions, you're like, you don't appreciate something until you lose it. And I feel like maybe it's the right time for people to understand the name Asamoah Gyan, the impact of that name. And now my heart is at peace, and I really appreciate it.
Let's go to the regions. And Ho-based Home Stars Football Club have secured qualification to play in the Division 1 League following a victory over Inter Allies Football Club. This follows their 4-2 win on penalties after the match ended 1 apiece after 90 minutes.
And there we go. Finals of the Adonai SA Voter Division 2 Middle League is on. First kick done by Inter Allies. Getting a J2 Freeman, and Freeman makes a cross. To defend. And Abraham got a hand into it. And Freeman will lock the tall one. Save! Roberto save Wonsu. Ball to be taken. And Boya! Oh! Steven Adon, Mohamed Shuaib, and there you go. And it's save! I saw Steven. Now, Julius goes, and it's a beautiful play. And it's in. Can he get it? Can he make it through? There he goes. Oh, There he goes. 1-2. Can he make it 2-2? Robert Osei going to. And it's 2-2. Can he make it 3 for Home Stars? And it's so there he goes. 1-2.
Thank you for staying with us for the sport. Do log on to myjoyonline.com/sport and our socials for more. I'm Gary Al Smith. The AM show continues. Thank you.
Welcome back on the AM show, and we continue with business. Much later on, we'll be segueing into the political events going down in Assin North. But for now, as indicated, we're getting into World MSMEs Day. Now, this is a United Nations event, and it is organized every year. We celebrate this year as well, and joining us in the studio, we have a conversation with a number of guests from different spheres. Let me just introduce them to you. We have Peter Smith van Gelder. He is Deputy Head of the European Delegation to Ghana, the European Union Delegation to Ghana. There is also Vida Enieje, CEO Niwaso Garments, and then there's Shaibu Yaya, CEO Shaibu 2022 Enterprise Ghana. They join us for a conversation this morning. Lady, gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Nice of you to ask. How about you?
I'm also good.
That's good to hear. So today we talk about MSMEs, their relevance, the work they do, and this celebration that we are commemorating today. But I'll start with you, Smith. For you, this green and circular economy and green business, tell us a bit about those. I'm sure some people, when they hear of green business in light of everything that is happening, global warming, climate change, and all of that, they wonder, what is green business? Tell us a bit about it.
So for us at the European Union here in Ghana, it's very important to practice what we preach. We as EU endeavor as a first continent to become carbon neutral by 2050. It's called the Green Deal, and Mr. Timmermans, Executive Vice President, is in charge of it. So that's for Europe itself, but of course if Europe does it alone, it's not enough. It's just a small part of the world. That's why we are working elsewhere in Africa and other continents, and specifically also in Ghana. Why? Because, you know, we committed to the Paris Agreement, to the Sustainable Development Goals, other countries as well, and Ghana as well. So here we're privileged to work with the UN together, with SNV, which is a Dutch NGO, and with the Dutch Embassy for the Green Project. And indeed, the idea is to have circular economy, meaning you have, for instance, recycle waste, reuse materials, and you create jobs. So in an ideal world, it's a win-win situation. You tackle poverty, you create jobs, and also you make the economy greener. Because we are convinced that it's possible to create green jobs for the people here in Ghana, and to make sure, you know, our children and our children's children have a greener and better Ghana to live in.
With this project in place, what has it been like in Ghana so far?
So we work with several organizations. We work in several parts of the country as well. So it's not only Accra. We were also in Kumasi. We're in the western region. We are in central region. We are up in Tamale. There are different projects which really worked out well. We work on the circular economy. We had also the circular economy competition. The one who won is a guy from Tamale, 100,000 CDs. We have here, of course, very privileged to have in the studio people we work with, so that they will do their own story. For instance, also in Kumasi, we work with a guy called Edward. He's doing the recycling of the waste. So far, we have seen tremendous results already, and we are looking forward to work further. One single example here, my colleague gave it to me. It's a paper bag, and it's been recycled by linen papers, exactly.
From corn husks and plantain stems.
Corn husks and plantain stems.
Yes.
Wow, let's just hold it up.
Hold it up.
Let's see that a bit.
Plantain stem, and this is from corn husks, so you can see the color.
I see. Let me have a feel of these.
It feels quite nice.
So this is of corn husks.
Yes, it's made from corn husks, and this is made from plantain stems.
It has quite a feel. So this is the one made of corn husks. Corn husks. That's interesting. So don't just throw them away, especially in this season of abele. You go everywhere and you find the corn and all of that. And let me feel the other one too.
That's a plantain stem.
Close your eyes
plantain. You know, if we did a blind session, okay, but I think I'd be able to identify. This is a bit more,
it's a thicker,
thicker, a bit more coarse as well. So interesting dynamics. All these being made with these products, corn husks, plantain stems, and all of that. Stalks, you said, to ensure that they don't go waste. But let me come to you, Vida. You had this brilliant idea to fabricate toys, dolls, and all of that from waste fabric.
Yes.
How did that come about? When did you start?
Yeah, you see, there's this idea like, you know that this waste has an economic value.
Okay.
You think it has an economic value, you just don't dispose it off. So it must be given that value. That was what started the concept of me using the waste pieces.
In other words, where, like it's been said, where someone sees waste, another person sees an opportunity, a gold mine.
Yes,
and that's what you saw.
Yes, that's what I saw. Because I run a garment factory and we produce huge tons of waste daily.
Right.
So looking at it, I said, no, let me start something with it. It really had its implementation during the SNV incubation program. Yes.
Tell us a bit about your work. I see these dolls here, these toys and others. Tell us a bit about what goes into them.
Okay, thank you. All the dolls that you are seeing here are made from garments, waste from the fabric that we produce, the clothing that we produce.
Okay.
This one especially, you can feel it. It's filled with pieces. We shred them.
Okay.
The garment pieces have...
So inside, right.
Yes. And this one is a little softer. This is the fiber. We fill this one with fiber.
All right, so this is Aquile.
Yes.
As you can
see.
This
is speaking the Ghanaian culture,
right,
the way we carry our babies.
Okay.
Yes, so you can see it's a Ghanaian mother with a baby at the back. It's depicting African value.
Oh, wow, I didn't even spot the baby.
Yes, and for the African child to value that they are also precious.
So interesting dynamics that you have for me. Let me come to Shaibu now, and let me just place Aquile here. Aquile should be right here. Tell us a bit about what you do and where you are located.
Okay,
how you got into this entire drive.
Okay, thank you. I am Shebu and I'm from Edra in the Asante region.
Okay.
What I do is I am into manufacturing of essential oils from the lemongrass and then citronella.
Essential oils from lemongrass and citronella, right.
And then we also into manufacturing of mosquito repellent as well. And then also the distilled grass from the lemongrass or the citronella are also used for manure. We decompose it at a particular place. Other farmers can be used for manure, and also we spread them at the farm for good production.
Okay, that's fine. Now, a short while ago, Peter, when he was speaking, he spoke about this initiative, the European Union, and why they're coming on board doing this in Ghana. I'd like to find out from you, how have you benefited from the training from the European Union and its partners? What has this done to you? How has it shaped what you do?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Peter from the European Union. They have given me a nice training from the OEA program, and then UNCDF come together to give a training which is about the agriculture and then wash, and then in terms of food productivity. So the program.
When you speak of WASH, you're talking about the WASH program. Right.
So I was decided to go for agriculture, which I was able to take some training from the UNCDF and SNV Ghana, coming together with European Union has given me a training about the agric sector. I was part of the poultry program, the fishery program, and then the cereal program at recycling up to at Kwadaso, which I have the certification here. It is here. Okay. When I complete that one at Kwadaso, this is what I was having.
You were awarded.
Yeah.
Right.
So with the OA program that I finished with it, so they were giving, I was able to get an idea of creating my business model canvas, to also put my business plan together, and then when the funds come, like application or the business plan competition, and then I was able to apply with that and won an amount of 40,000 Ghana cedis to increase production and machinery for my product. So with the cash for work, the UNCDF delegation with the connection with the European Union they came to Ejura district. So they asked the various community members, which is my community Ejura Bedukrom New site, about what are the two things that will bring sustainable development good for the community. So the community members was interested in the culvert and then potable drinking water for the people of the community, so that they could be able to sustain their goals as well.
Let me come back to you, Peter. So how crucial is it for Ghana's transition into the green economy, and what are the priorities of the European Union when it comes to the circular economy in this respect?
It's super crucial. We can hardly overstate it, so it's very important. That's why also we are contributing to the tune of 20 million euros on this project for these years. Indeed, giving training, incubation. I've seen the project myself also around Kumasi and the University of Knust, both up in Tamale. What we do here in Ghana is actually three things for the coming years. We are contributing with the government of Ghana, with civil society, with academia, 200 million euros for the coming years. And then
How many years are we looking at? So you speak of 20 million euros now, but you mentioned 200 million euros.
Yeah, 200
Is it a
million,
long-term
for
thing?
the next 3 years.
Next 3 years.
Next 3 to 4 years, so it's give or take 50 million per year.
Wow.
Then we have 3 priorities. The first is indeed the Green Deal. So making sure we make the transitions, making business greener, making jobs cleaner, and then also the second is everything around smart cities. What do we do here in Accra and in Kumasi? Make sure all those people living together that they have access to clean energy, to jobs, and to water and sanitation. And then the third big chunk is everything around security, good governance, and the whole project also in the north. We are very big in the north. We have an agriculture program. I was just up in Wa. We do Ghana agriculture program, also around 130 million for the coming years. Because as you know, Ghana in the north, it's a bit more vulnerable and poorer. So it's very important for us to be there with the feeder road and so on. But all in all, it's, I want to stress it's a collective endeavor and it's a collective responsibility. We put energy in it, money in it, the UN as well. The Dutch, we are here with Team Europe. There are 9 member states on the ground. And of course, Ghana also committed to the Paris Agreement and to the SDGs. So we are all in it together to make sure we make the transition to a new, greener and cleaner economy.
Wow. Just a quick follow-up on that. So how then at what level are you collaborating? The governmental level? And what, for example, are your collaborations, partnerships with public and private enterprise to achieve this promotion of the circular economy in Ghana?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, of course, we are here working together with the government. We signed an agreement with the government. So it's, for instance, the Ministry of Energy, the Ministry of Agriculture. So that's the public sphere and the public sector. But it cannot always be, the highest level. So you also work at the community level, the municipal level here in Accra, but also in Kumasi and in Tamale. And then we work also, of course, with universities and academia, Knust, for instance, in Kumasi, and civil society, very importantly. There can be very good ideas from there. Small enterprises, this is what we today celebrate, of course, micro, small and medium enterprises. So the key is also in giving those people opportunities. They may have a good idea, but maybe they need some seed money, maybe they need some training, maybe they need some incubation in there. That's really how I see our role, to bring everybody together, also with expertise we may have, and of course the funding and the training.
Right. Coming back to VIDA, it is clear that here, when you want to start on a project like this, especially as an MSME, one of the major hurdles you face is the financial one. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced, and how has this green project enabled you to continue with what you do?
Thank you. It was cheap and reliable source of energy.
Okay.
Because it was increasing cost of production and delays in sending our finished product to our clients. Therefore, it was, we couldn't even employ when we need more workers. So the SNV incubation program currently has helped me with a matching grant support of 128,000 Ghana cedis 600 to do the 10 kVA solar. So currently we are using solar at our workplace. It has increased our workforce, and production too has come down because the source of energy is cheaper and it's very reliable.
You're telling me you've had almost 200,000 Ghana cedis in support?
And
a little north of 180,000 for your solar project.
Yes, and not only that. It's a lot. Yes.
I do know that, I mean, recently I was on a drive for this school in terms of solar panels and batteries, so I know exactly how much they cost, but in the long term, they have their own benefits. But just tell me as a follow-up, the Green Incubation Program, what exactly did it do for you? What has the incubation been like?
Okay.
Shaibu was talking about what his influence was, the impact it had on him. What was it for you?
Okay, I did my incubation at the Diapa workspace. It's in Takoradi.
Okay.
Through the SME project, they helped me put my business in a more formalized way. They helped me with my marketing and my branding. And there are some things like HR policy. There were other things, even though I was working, I didn't have much knowledge about it, like negotiations policies. This thing, had it not been the SMV incubation thing, I wouldn't have known much about it. So
interesting dynamics there, and the support, the sort of support you've got. I'm sure some people would die for that.
Yes.
To get that kind of support. But coming to Shaibu, there's this Cash for Work program.
Yeah.
Tell us about it and how it impacted the start of what you do. Cash for Work. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, Cash for Work is a green initiative with UNCDF and European Union delegations. And then what they do is when they come to the community to ask for what the community members will need, then they employ the community members, but by taking the forms, and then you apply for the forms. So when you apply for the forms and it is time for selection, and then they will check, select, it is 18 to 35.
That is the age categorization.
For Cash for Work initiative. Right. So I was selected, and then I was the timekeeper of the project at the site, and the same time at where we are taking the training. So the project was 6 months training, and then it was 3 months training, and then after we finished that, some allowances and then some money and allowance was given. So I wouldn't know. I was having an idea about the mosquito repellent, but how to start it with funding through the money they were giving us. I was able to start the business small, and then later I also heard from a colleague friend from which benefit 21,500 last year, 2021 or 2022, I don't know, but it was like that. So he introduced me to SNV Green Ghana, and then I was also having interest to also be with them. So as I was following them with their programs and the training, and then the trade shows, and then the incubation programs, through that I was able to write my business plan competition, and amount of 40,000 Ghana cedis was given me to increase production and then raw materials for my business.
Okay, so let's continue from that point. From the SNV and the European Union, you received this grant of 40,000 Ghana cedis.
Yes.
What has been the real impact of that on what you do?
Wow. The real part of what I'm doing is that I create jobs for the community, and because it is green businesses, everybody would like to be with me and then learn something about what I am doing. Oh, they say, wow, so why at first your business was not like that? What happened? And then you are able to do this. So
you're also promoting
another green because
exactly. Yeah. You're sharing the good stories.
Yes. And always when delegations from EU and the European Union or SNV, they come to my place and they like the place is very green because all the farm is green, and then I have able to employ the people of the community.
How many people are under your employ?
Oh, I have 10 employees, 6 women, 4 men. The 4 men are for the harvesting of the grass, 6 women are collecting to the site, and then we have 1 person who distill the grass with oil.
Let me come to Peter now. Back to you. How is this project, being supported by the European Union, the SNV? How are you doing this in Ghana? What are the support systems? How are you going about it?
In general, we have this fund. It's the 20 million euro for the coming time. What we like.
You made mention of that.
we like to visit the projects as well. Of course, there is selection, and I think my colleague here said it very well. The idea is you train people, and then they train other people, right? So
trainer of trainer situation.
Trainer of trainers. Of course, I could go, somebody else could go, but I think the impact is much bigger if somebody from the community himself gets some training and then transfers the knowledge. For instance, on how to market, to do the publication, to do the PR, but also just how to go about the whole recycling, reusing and refurnishing of all materials. So basically that's what we do. I think this was a good project, and then let's see how it works out also for future projects. But for us, I'd like to emphasize it's important we do it not only here in the city, of course here as EU we are in the capital of Accra, but that we do it in other cities, and that's why we're also often on missions to see the work. But indeed, it's an endeavor of everybody. It's the public sector and civil society and ourselves, and indeed the transfer of knowledge is best done by people on the ground who have the voice in the community, rather than us going there, saying, yeah, we should do this or that.
And the local content, obviously, key. In any community you go to, you need such people who have been through the process, who will be sort of your mouthpieces and are more relatable in the communities. But in terms of the specific actions that you're taking as the EU, as the SNV, to ensure that those green projects and the circular economy continue, what would you pinpoint as the specific actions you're taking?
I think the most important to emphasize is we do the training, we do the incubation, we make sure there is activities going on, there is small business on the ground, and then we make sure after the circular economy competition, there is small grants for people, and we make sure the business is thriving and can go on. That is basically how we do it.
Okay. So with these dolls that you make, Vida, if I asked you how many of them you've produced as of now, I don't know whether you'd be able to give me a number. How many of them have you been able to produce? Over what period?
On a daily, I can give you on a daily basis. On a daily basis, we can produce like 50.
50?
Yes, because we do it alongside clothing. With the clothing on a daily basis, we produce like 120 clothing. So looking at producing 120 clothing, just imagine the waste you make out of it on a daily basis. Yes.
So about 50 of these, and in terms of the market for them, what has that been like? People patronizing your wares, what has that been like?
Yes, but had it not been the SNV projects, I wouldn't have had a market for it. That's why I said earlier that it really materialized during the SNV incubation program. Because at first, people even didn't know what I was doing. Some will look at it and it's like, this thing, will it sell? But that one has given me market outside. Those people in the diaspora, they really love things like this. And,
this also means you're doing a bit of recycling, you're preventing what could have gone waste to be used, also protecting our environment.
Yes.
Do you share that message along, the line?
I
do you
do.
share that message with people, even those
I
who
do.
patronize your wares?
I do. I do, because I quite remember some time I ran out of pieces, so I went to my colleague fashion designers for pieces, and they were like, what are you going to use this for? And I said, I know what I'm using it for. So I showed them some of my art pieces. They were like, wow, then we'll come and learn it.
Okay.
Yes, they didn't even know anything about it.
So you're getting more people on board as well.
Yes.
And of course, once that sensitization goes down there, we all prevent wastage.
Yes.
But let's talk about employment and the opportunities, job opportunities this has created. As you've been supported, you've also been able to impact your community.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, as I said earlier, now we have solar. SME supported us with that matching grant of 428,000. Since we have constant energy, we know that when we employ workers, they will definitely work daily. So right now we have 18 staff, but before I met SME, we were just 6. Now we've increased to 18. And
so your capacity, workforce has increased.
That's increased.
That's by threefold.
It has.
6 to 18.
Yes, and we're looking forward that it will increase, because as orders keep coming, we keep increasing our casual workers. And most of them are from my community, and they are within the ages of 20, 35, that way. Okay. Mostly women. The men are not much, about 4 or 5 of them, but all of them are women. And then when you graduated from secondary school, you are in the house, you don't have anything to do, and you did fashion, you are welcome to come to Inuaso.
All right, so you heard it from right here. If you did anything in fashion, you're interested, you can reach out to them. Yeah. I'm sure at the tail end of the conversation, we'll let you know how you can reach out to them. But let me come to Shaibu. She has made mention of some of her challenges. For you, what are those specific challenges you faced in being a green entrepreneur, and how has all of this helped you emerge from that?
I think challenges from the entrepreneur is about the time I don't know about the green it was the marketing, how I could get international market, how I could able to get my business registered, and then how I could able to get training about how my finances will be through the green business, a green project. I have able to get a training from Build Account, which they give us training about our how to keep our finances, our record, and then our expenses when you are into business. And then through the incubation training, they have able to sell my business far away by boosting and then social media activities, and it has helped me. I've able to get international market with the lemongrass, dry tea. I have a colleague, SME, which the mother is now in the UK. She was doing cosmetics, and then the mother is now in UK, so she was able to order me 100 kilograms of dry lemongrass. And
so they placed an order from your outfit?
Yes.
Wow.
From then the dry ginger to 150 kilograms to be exported maybe next week, or because it's left 2-3 days for it to be dry, because you have to dry it very well before you export.
Especially when you're going to
that is through incubation programs I have been at the recycling app Ghana.
So in other words, you've got a lot of exposure, access to the European markets, financing, the 40,000 you've been given, and even quite a presence on social media. I mean, who wouldn't go for that? But let's
financial management.
Yeah. Oh yes, and financial management as well. How to manage your resources. Maybe keep your books and all of that. But what difference would you say your outfit is making in your community? So you've made mention of the fact that you're bringing some youth on board, you're speaking to people. But if I asked you, tangible impact that your work has had on your community, Ejiso, what would you say?
Wow, the tangible impact that my work has impact in is Edra, but it was a
Edra, yes, right.
So is because we are into organic mosquito products or product. So other mosquito repellent or other product who are mixed in chemically and then could cause harm to the people. So they always want to be at our market, anytime I have product about thousands or 2,000, they buy all and then it will be short. So what is the impact that the community has gotten from me is that we already do our things organically, so they like the product. And also I create jobs for the young ones to be coming.
Let me come back to Peter. So what are some of the other projects that the EU, maybe the SNV, are supporting on this green drive, this green campaign, this green economy? What are some of the other projects you're focusing on? You made mention of the $200 million. Do those projects feed in there?
Yeah, well, we count in euros, but...
well, euros maybe, yeah.
Yes, of course, they count in there. Some of them are still in the making, but for instance, we are working in Kumasi with the locals. We're working also in Tamale. Here, the SNV project specifically, we're looking at 12,000 people benefiting. So that's
12,000 people.
12,000 people in total. So I think that's very good already. The challenge, if I may, as well, is we cannot do everything alone. Even though we have great people here at the table and with SNV and the UN and the Dutch. It's also a mentality thing, right? So, for instance, solar was mentioned a couple of times. I've been now in Africa 10 years, nowhere so much sun as here in Ghana, so use much more of solar. The single-use plastic, it's really a challenge. You go to a bar or whatever, you get a plastic cup or plastic bottle of water. It will take time, but all of that we need to transition. So it's not only a question of money, it's also a question of changing that whole mentality. But
so it's a mindset issue as well.
Yeah. I think so.
And that's an even more delicate matter to deal with as far as the mindset is concerned, because that will take a lot more time. But then your pilot projects in the Ashanti and Western regions, can you tell us a bit more about that, specifically those regions?
Yeah, so Ashanti specifically, I was there, I believe it's half a year ago. We worked there with the University of Kumasi.
The KNUST, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
Yeah, I never know if I should pronounce KNUST or KNUST.
So it's
whatever.
KNUST.
And
some would say NUST without the. So it's like the K and knife.
Exactly. So with the university there, the big one, and also with the university in my home country, Netherlands, TU Delft. So they work with the farmers there to make it greener. They have a lot of very state-of-the-art material. I saw it myself. Incubation, the training as well. And it's working really quite well. It's quite impressive, the results they have there, working with the local farmers in Kumasi. So I'm looking forward to, see more results there and go back, if time allows.
Okay.
And if I asked you about some of the key achievements of green so far in Ghana, what would you say?
I would say what we just discussed now. So we start, I think, small, admittedly, but start with the communities to make products like this, to work on e-waste, to do recycling, to work against pollution, and indeed to train the local communities to make sure children, because it all starts with them, get that in their mind that it's not normal to use all the plastic, it's not normal to throw everything away, and it is normal to have green and clean jobs.
Wow. So for you, Vida, we've spoken about the support of 128,000 plus euros from the SNV. We've spoken about the impact that has had on your work, the exposure you have had. But from where you sit, it's quite a position. You have benefited from the program. Why is it important for entrepreneurs like you to go green? What do you think?
Thank you. I'll urge every entrepreneur to go green, because these days for you to get be on the bigger platform, every organization is seeking for people whose business are sustainable. Okay. And if you going green means you are thinking outside the box, thinking about the environment, so that your work will not create harm. And also, you will also get extra income, because apart from me being a fashion designer, this waste this fabric waste is also giving me another income, which now is even fetching me more, if I should say that, in the near future, looking at how things are going. It can even fetch
going green pays?
It pays a lot.
Right.
It pays a lot. So I will urge all entrepreneurs who are doing their diverse businesses to look through what they are doing, think outside the box, they will definitely see something they can do for their business to go green.
It's worth going green, but let me find out from Shaibu what he thinks on that same point. I mean, how important is it as an entrepreneur for you to go green? What has been the impact for you?
Well, it is nice as an entrepreneur to be green in impact because when you look at various communities, entities, because if you are under the green, a lot of support that is being coming from the various delegations or entities from European Union are considered about the green jobs we are doing and then what is going to bring for the impact for the community so that it will not cause any trouble or any harm for the atmosphere, the land and the water bodies. So I would like to know be a greener this
now he's gone green and he wants to go greener.
Yeah, I want to be a greener. Everyone should be green because green is the sustainable development goals for every community or any society.
So right before I take you, I'd like you to put your details out there so people can also get interactive with you and all of that. To cap off the conversation from your end, Peter, and I'll give you a final bite, all of you. What activities are lined up for the MSME celebrations? What are the activities? Just walk us through them. What's the plan?
So, in fact, we're starting right now, as you see, because we're making some publication for it in some of the shows. We will visit some of the activities as well these days. We work together, of course, with you and SNV. And we look forward to continue it because that's maybe, if you allow Mr. Talk Show host one last soundbite, indeed,
you can call me Benjamin.
Said it very well. It is not either or. So also back in Europe, the strategy is a growth strategy. It's not either you stop or you do green and you create jobs at the same time. So this is what we would like to envisage also in Ghana. And in other parts of the world. Also in terms of communication, it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, we have the droughts getting drier, we have a lot of tornadoes and you name it, but it's not the idea to scare people, the climate change, and now we just sit back and do nothing and wait for some kind of Armageddon. No, the time to act is now, and in fact, one of the ways to act is to create the green jobs.
I have this final bit here, it just came to mind, an unscripted bit, but when you look at our entrepreneurial landscape, about what percentage would you say is green? How much more work do we have to do?
Oh, I don't know percentages, but I think there is a lot to do. I think, to be honest...
Very few businesses are going green, right?
The green part is really small. If you want to see it a bit positively, there is still a lot of opportunity for development.
Yeah. All right. So let me come to both of you, Shaibu and Vida now. You can share your contact details so our viewers can also get interactive. I'll start with you, Vida. Where are you located?
I'm in Takoradi.
Takoradi?
Yes, I'm in Takoradi.
Where in Takoradi?
Yes, I'm in Takoradi, Shama districts, and the name of the company is Iniwaso Garments. You can find us on Facebook, Iniwaso Garments, on Instagram, Iniwaso_garments.
Can you spell the Iniwaso so they can...
Thank you. It's ANIWASU.
Okay, ANIWASU.
Yes,
okay.
The garments. And our telephone numbers is 054-34-30055, 0243-6477.
Can you slow down? Just slow down. If someone is taking that number, busy taking the number, so
054-34-30055.
One last time.
054-34-30055.
Okay, so if you wanted to take that number, I'm sure after all these five, you would have taken the number. Shaibu, same for you.
Yeah, I am Shaibu.
So you are in Idra, right? Where in Idra?
Yeah, Central Region.
Yes, where within the Idra community? What is that place called?
Idra Metropolitan District or Idra District Assembly.
All right. And your contact details?
Yeah, what I do is I am into manufacturing of mosquito repellent and other essential oils from lemongrass and citronella.
Okay.
So when you want to reach me, you can also call me on 055-44-66 361 055 44 66 361. Our Facebook platform is Shaibu22 Enterprise. And then when you go to WhatsApp and the other social media, you can click Shaibu22 Enterprise Ghana. You will see our product over there, and then you select what you want. And then.
All right. So today is World MSMEs Day. Any final words from each of you? 30 seconds. I'll start with you, Peter.
Thanks for having us. It was great to work here with you. We like the project a lot, the Green Project with SNV and UN. We saw already many jobs created, and we look forward to an even better future.
And we look forward to the empowerment that the 200 million euros will bring to Ghana. Vida, final words.
I also want to use this medium to thank SNV so much for the support they've given me and my business, and the support they've given me goes a long way to help my community too. I'm very grateful to them. And also I thank my hub, the Upper Workspace, Mr. Erasmus, for getting time to incubate me. I also thank my family for the support given me and all my workers. Thank you.
That's great. For you, all your 18 workers, right? All your 18 staff members. For you?
I would like to thank UNCDF and then SNV Ghana for giving me the support today to be here as SNV World Day program, and then the support they have given me from my business, my community, and then even myself too. So also would like to thank UNCDF and the European Union for giving them an opportunity for taking. It was not by car. If it is by car, by this time we're not here. We fly all the way from Kumasi, and then we landed here yesterday at 1:45 or something like that, and then today too I think we'll be going back. Thank you.
So Shaibu got over 40,000 Ghana cedis in support, together with financing, training, exposure to the European market, and more. Vida got 128,600 Ghana cedis for her solar project, and she has also got those opportunities. So what are you waiting for? We must all go green, right? Yeah. That's the way to go. Our guests this morning have been Peter Smith van Gelder. He is Deputy Head of the European Union Delegation to Ghana. There's also been Vida Eniaje, CEO in Niwaso Garments. She's in Takrade. And there's also Shaibu Yaya, CEO, Shaibu 2022 Enterprise Ghana in Ejura. That's how we cap off our conversation. We go green. It's the only way forward. We'll be right. Right. We'll be right back on the AM show. Do stay.
Thank you.
Hey, that's any pain. Of being Ghana from Papa. And check around here, you will feel. You will feel. Yeah, a control, you will second. Sa Panswa, and a little person. Let me know about that. I say NPP for any minute, you can say rain now. And then they run around. Ghana and they run around. And then they run around. Ghana and they run around. And then they run around. Maybe rain will be our Ghana. I said the two and then another and they know you. Then Panis answer, who are being because of who way and say, nearly be maybe that. 6.5 years in the world. Nearly been a mayor. I'm not sure, not sure. I'm not a tour, not to, and then and I move over. To be some make it, move so quite to dream of na brother ebe mukoye de beboa mukoyi enipa obetumi aba na ọba beboa na nsɛm a esi wɔ ha ɛkwan sei na sɛ mi di nkunim wɔ Asen North ha 2020. Nam sɛ skirt and blouse bɛn mu ɛna MP no kɔdi baabi ɛfiri saa berɛ no bɛsi nɛ munya ho aso court nsɛm koaa kana mopɛ no ɛno na ɛhia court nsɛm yɛto aba yi MP ne yɛpɛ court nsɛm yɛmpa obi a mfaso obiara ɛni ne ho ɔno ne Charles Opoku na ɛberɛ babio sɛ womenya kwan ɛne obi foforɔ na mapanin dada yɛwura naama ɔse sɛnyɛ politics a akaibia court for after war consequences so balance politics akɔwura Supreme Court Asamoah Gyan no efina no nso bi ɔsɛ Ghanafoɔ ɛni nkayɛ obi a bɛyɛ adwuma na ɔde fiase ɔbɛbɛtumi adwuma bɛyɛ adwuma nimisama wode fiase ɔbɛwa bɛtumi aba bɛyɛ adwuma ɛdɛ adwuma na wobɛtumi ayɛ wɔ pɛ ɛdɛ yɛ adwuma na wobɛtumi ayɛ wɔ pɛ sɛ akɔdwen mu ho a akɔmfa ne ho mma na saa na aba no wɔ ɛti sɛ NDC foɔ ɛpɛ ne saa mesra mo ma mo nyɛ saa mfomsoɔ no bio mɔmpɛ obi a ɔba bɛyɛ adwuma na deɛ ɔba bɛgyina hɔ na ɛkyina appeal court ɔkyerɛ ti Supreme Court ɔkyerɛ ti High Court na ɛno bi ne yɛhwehwɛ yɛpɛ MP yɛmpɛ court asɛm biara ɛwɔ yɛ NPP ho ɛti no meba sɛ meba abɛsrɛ mo sɛ aba mo ma abɛtoi abrada abɛ monto aba ɛyi deɛ obɛtumi aba mmarahyɛ badwa mu a ɔbɛka aban no ho ɛma aban no ntutuma a aban no ɛyɛ wɔ Asen North no wɔbɛtumi aba abɛtoa so ɛma ntutuma a yɛayɛ ɛwɔ Asen North no saa ntutuma no nso so atumi aba akabi yɛmpa obi a ɔbɛba abɛboa me ɛne yɛde saa aka no nso so ɛma abɛka wɔ ho a mo nso so bɛnya wo mfasoɔ yɛma abɛto abɛn na ɛno nso ɔno de wɔyɛ bɛrima bibi a bɛba mmra na ɔdwen me ho no yɛmpa obi a ɔno baba na ɔba bɛsom mo obi a ɔde n'asɛm na ɛba abɛha mo adwen na ɛtɛ biara newspaper mu obi a ɔbɛtumi ne mi aba abɛyɛ adwuma na ɛpɛ obi a ɔbɛtumi ne mi aba abɛyɛ adwuma aba mi hɔ aba abɛsira abɛ ama mo a na nso so no mene ne bɛdi ho nkɔfa ɛbɛbɛre ɛne abɛdwuma nate sɛ owura no ɔse ɔde fiase koraa wobɛto ama na ɛno nti ne yɛto aba sɛfoɔ da fiase ɛno nti ne yɛto aba na ɛpa ɔba obi a ɔbɛkɔ akogyina mmarahyɛ bɛnyina hɔ wakɔ akɔpere deɛ ɛdeɛ ɔde bɛbrɛ mu wɔ Asen North na ha na ɔbɛtumi ayɛ sɛ adwuma amfomsoɔ biara ne ne hɔ ɔno ne taa mpoko Mesamo, afei deɛ abɛtɔ wɔ deɛ mfomsoɔ biara ɛma so yɛnto no pete ama Charles Opoku na ɔbɛka yɛn ho ɛyɛ sisi ɛyɛ ɛma afɔso ɛba Asen North yɛtumi ayɛ ahyɛ aseɛ yɛ nneɛma bebree wɔ ha deda ɛkyɛ ɛne sɛ ɛno nti na maa bɛka adeɛ ɔkaa yɛ no sɛ yɛsii maa yɛwura Adamu Sakande Jamani Sakande ɔno Mahama ne brɛ so no ne refi yɛsii kwesini ɛno bi pɛpɛɛpɛ ɛna sii ɔwura Jamani Sakande na ne brɛ so no politics ɛna maa no baa saa ɛma adɔɔdefoɔ no ɛburu Sakande fo ne brɛ so no saa na ɛteɛ na ɛde na deɛ abɛyɛ politics yɛmpɛ biribi papa ne yɛnka biribi asɛm papa ne yɛnka titire yɛnka nokorɛ sɛ ne nam na yɛnam nokora ase ne yɛka nsɛm a ɛmfata atoro potee wɔ nokorakora ase no ɛmmoa da na abɔfoɔ yɛmpɛ deɛ yɛbɛka nokorɛ ne yɛka nokorɛ nso a ofi nɛ ɛkɔsi January the 7th 2025 MPP abaa na ɛwɔ so NPP abaa ɛna ɛwɔ so ɛnti asɛmfoɔ
nea Ghanafoɔ sɛ menka nkyerɛ mo ne sɛ yɛsɛ nyame nhyehyɛ ɛyɛ nhyehyɛ pa.
Ghanaians want me to tell you God's plan is the best. God has planned it that you, the constituents of Asin North, will amplify the hardship Ghanaians are experiencing. You are the ones to speak on their behalf through your votes in this by-election.
Asen North for
all the drivers in this country are saying you voters in Asen North will speak on their behalf so the government will know we are in difficult times. All the Okada riders in Ghana say you are the ones to speak for them. Our unemployed children are saying same.
Asen North for Samon Kana Binance say and your man ko ye. Ye mambudo omo wie school a omo tifie enfie mienu enfie miensa enfie num a omo nye adwuma ni ameme ka ne se NDC for yentijai
NDC people are never discouraged. Whether they like it or not, James Chachikwesen is our choice.
Eza na ne mema mo hu se amanyosem abedi court mu ene se ye file nomination ye Electoral Commission ye ballot papers ni bibia me ejina esi akan no ye say case a ye de bae no a ye charge o a ye pese ye de ukoto efiase no efri na wotwe ye bayi e was said de bia wo ba court.
The issue has now been politicized. Now they want to hear the Chachikwesen case daily. What I'm asking is, the people who have killed, do they hear their cases daily? The number one issue, is it daily? What has this man done? Has he stolen any money? Has he killed? If they say they will hear the case daily, we will go with our beds so he sleeps at the court. The trial can be morning, afternoon, evening. The people of Asen North are saying whether he's here or not, they have made up their minds.
And so many Americans say, almost say, Umbeti case in Debia. Almost there, Yadim Pabe Quacosi. No, I call that court. Almost per Omuntian and Opa and Ajo. Yeah, Asen North for dear. So we'll hope. So ni ho. Yeah, dear, you better.
Well, we are your election headquarters, and of course, today we're going hard on the Asin North by-election. But let's just contemplate with these graphical works. Let's take a look at what the dynamics are in that area, who has won what, especially considering the MPP and the NDC, and what we can forecast ahead of this election. By forecast, we're not saying we're going to be telling you which candidate is going to win, but on the back of the dynamics since 1996. Of course, in 1992, we know the NDC at the time swept all the seats. There was a no-show from the end of the New Patriotic Party. So we'll leave that out. But from 1996 till now, what has the picture been like all the way up to 2020? We'll take the picture from there. But if you look right behind me, this is the Asin area in the central region. And there's the north, there's the central belt, and there's south. Let's now look at the dynamics. You would find in Asin North, the member of parliament who was ousted, James Jachikwason, he polled 55.2% of the votes in the 2020 election. Now, of course, when you come to the central belt, we have Kennedy Ohene Ejapon, who polled some 57.3% to take the Asin Central constituency. And finally, in the Asin South area, Deputy Minister for Education, John Intim Fojo, who actually polled 39.3% of that vote. But then when we take a look at the pattern, disaggregated pattern, focusing on Assin North and the parliamentary election results. Now, you would see, per the dynamics, the blue representing the MPP and the green representing the NDC. So you would see the pattern, the falling pattern as far as the NDC is concerned, all the way from around 1996, and then some sort of a rise moving into the years, and finally in 2020, what the figures were. And of course, the MPP as well. So you would see the figures there. In 1996, the NPP scoring some 34.7%, with the NDC amassing some 63% of the votes. And then moving on, we would see the other dynamics. In the year 2000, you would see the appreciation. Now, a sort of reverse of the parameters. Now, with the NDC just getting a little under 40%, 39.7%, and in that area, Kennedy Ejapon scoring some 56.6%. Then we go to 2004, again, 36.5%, even more woes for the NDC here in 2004, with Kennedy Ohene Ejapon polling some 58.6%. But from here, you'll see a bit of a downward trend, because from 56.6% and a higher 58.6%, then you would see the figures beginning to tumble. Let's go now to 2008, 42.9% for the NDC, an appreciation of about 6 point something percentage points, and a loss for Kennedy Ejapon, 55.1%, the lowest we have seen up to this point. And then we come into that crucial area with Ambre Samuel, and you would see the dynamics there as well when it comes to the NDC and the MPP, 44.2% versus 51.6%, and that was in 2012. Special scenario that played out there. And then we come to 2016 and then 2020. So in 2016, we would see that the NDC would poll some 39.2%, and Abnadrowa Mensah would carry the day with 56.8%. And finally, we would then move on to the year 2020, where in fact 44.8% is what the NPP would get, dipping for the first time in a while over 40%. That is getting below the 50% margin. You would notice that in 2012, that was the scenario, 44.2%, and in 2020, 44.8%. And that was when James Jachikwason polled 55.2%, akin to what Kennedy Ejapon polled in 2008 by 0.1 percentage point or 0.1 percentage point. And that was how he became Member of Parliament. But since that time, he has faced his legal woes, and now he is contesting again the very seat that he supposedly won in 2020. So let's get now into some of the other details. I have joining me right here on the set, Joseph Akable. He is our legal correspondent, also a man on the ground when it comes to James Gyakye. This man knows a lot about James Gyakye. He's always in court about him. Good to have you.
Hi, Ben. You good?
All right, so we're talking about the dynamics in Assin North, looking at the voting pattern, and it's quite an interesting picture. As we load all of them, you would see the MPP has been predominant in that area, but you would notice that in recent times, the NDC has also come strongly. I take out 1992 because we all know what happened.
Yes, they didn't participate in the parliamentary elections.
They didn't, but in 1996, it was a comfortable win for the NDC. But since then, from the year 2000, where they won, the MPP won by a stroke of a margin, 50%, then 56% as far as the parliamentary is concerned, all through up to 2008, it was the MPP. Then there was a resurgence in 2012 with the NDC. And now the Gyakye factor playing in once more with 55.21%.
And so the 2012 is significant again because
both ways.
That was when the constituency was created. The Assin North, as we have it, was carved out. Then we now had Assin Central, then we had Assin South as well. And so for the first time, so you see that
split.
Over here is still Kennedy Japan from 2000 winning. But this is the presidential results. So when he was picking up the seats, the presidential candidate was also winning in the same way. Then in 2012, when this is carved out, the NDC picked the seat and also they managed to
the presidential
for the presidential as well. Then you come in here to 2020 to see what happens here. So you see 2020 again, the president wins here, but for the parliamentary, James Gyakye wins.
And that was the interesting dynamic because Akufo-Addo won by some 15,000 or plus votes. But when you look at the parliamentary, James Gyakye got some 17,000 plus votes. So typical skirt and blouse in Assin North. But like you mentioned, it's been, you could say, it's predominantly NPP because when it was Assin as a whole, that constituency, it had almost always, since 1996, so for 3 times running, 2000 to 2008, 3 electoral cycles running, it had been in the grips of the MPP. And then the interesting thing happens when it's carved out in 2012. Yeah. Then we see the dynamics. Then Kennedy Japan now represents the central part of Assin, and he continues with the win.
Yes. And if you go to Assin South to Intim Fojo,
Reverend Intim Fojo.
So it tells you that the Assin area generally may seem to be an NPP stronghold of sorts. But for the parliamentary race, the NDC has won it twice. And that again tells you on the quality of James Gyakye. But
to have been able to break
that cycle. But the point that others on the other side will point out to you is the fact that, look, what worked for James Gyakye is simply the Assin Breku area. Because the argument is made that that is where most of the votes are, and that's where he hails from. And so that is how come he was able to win. And mind you, he beat a previous member of parliament.
He did.
The lady had won the seat before.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the MPP going into this particular election opted, so they had the choice between a former member of parliament and someone who does not even vote in the area. I mean, Charles Opoku at Akwa, and he doesn't vote at Assin North. But they opted for him because he's from Assin Breku, which is where James Gyakye comes from. So you see clearly.
So it's basically to dilute the votes and to create some sort of, look, this person is also from here. So if James Gyakye won because he was, let's say, a constituent, a member of that community, how about we get someone who is also from there? But the question is whether it will work. If you've listened to the rhetoric of those on the street from yesterday, from today, or Hemingteria, Richard Kwejunako, and some of the rhetoric. In fact, this morning, there was someone who was engaged with, and on pain of prejudicing anything. I mean, you can tell that people definitely have decided by this morning where exactly they are going to vote.
I mean, most people would have decided, but I mean, as politicians, as they are campaigning for votes, you never give up until, I mean, the last ballot drops in the box.
But as of now, all campaigning has ceased, and right now, all you can do is hope that your campaign message has percolated, trickled down.
I mean, Ben, trust me.
And the people will respond to it.
Ben, trust me, the last minute interaction. You see, that's how come. I mean, Richard shared a video of people. There's a claim that there's some place where money is being shared and people were rushing there. It's very similar to what happened at Kumewu recently.
Right.
I mean, the politicians still.
But you've seen the Chairman Wontumi one.
Oh yes, I've seen that one. But you see, people always believe that before the voter goes into that booth, you can still influence the person, and so they take their chances. Even though the law does not, they are not supposed to be doing a campaign around this time.
That's exactly the point.
They will still try to interact with them and try and make that point to them to allow for it to happen. And so generally, this is our Upper Dentra.
So Upper Dentra East.
I mean, it's not too far from Assin North, and you can see clearly that is. I mean, the color tells you the story.
It's been the MPP all through. Look at the figures: 70%. The only dynamic you would note is the trickling numbers, the drop in numbers. So from 70.5% in 2004, when the fervor was really high. Now it goes to 63%, falls to 58, comes back to 63, and now it stands at 55, which is the lowest in this pattern when it comes to the presidential. Now let's look at the parliamentary. Similar trend, 68.1% in 2004, falls to 59, falls to 54, appreciates to 55, and falls to 54 again. This may not be the lower. In fact, so this would be the lowest, 2012. 54.38, which was in 2020, would be the second lowest. So both ways, you see a depreciation in the number of votes, both for the presidential and the parliamentary.
But the trend also tells the story that Upper Dentra may be having a similar situation, a bit different from Assin North, but it appears the presidential candidates tend to excite the voters more. I mean, the NPP presidential candidates.
Right.
Because you are seeing
look at the voting patterns.
You are seeing 68. So he's getting more votes than his parliamentary candidates.
63 to 59.
He's getting more
58
votes.
to 54.
He's getting more votes. He's getting more votes.
The closest is in 2020, 55.04% to 54.38%. But still, there are more votes on the presidential.
It means that the NPP as a party, they need to do more in terms of their selection of their candidates, or perhaps the candidates that are picked also have to do more work when they go into parliament in terms of that particular area as well.
So let's look at some more dynamics now. Now, Isikuma Odobeng Brakwa. This is a prominent, popular constituency. And the voting pattern there as well, very interesting. So when you look at the presidential, here there's quite a mixed situation, because in 1996, it was 58.2% for the NDC. And they also swept the parliamentary seat, 58.9%. Here you would notice that in the presidential, there was 0.7% less votes compared to the parliamentary candidate they presented. But then you come to 2000, and then there's a pattern that turns on its head. 51.7% for the presidential, 51.9% for the parliamentary. So it's a win both ways, but 0.2% increment as far as the parliamentary vote is concerned. Akabli, let's look at the rest.
2004, 64.00. The MPP picks that up in terms of the presidential. For the parliamentary, 58.30. They pick that up as well. Let's see how it shapes up. In 2008,
then there's a switch.
They win the presidential, 50.20. The parliamentary, the MPP wins with 49%. Yeah.
Which tells you in those dynamics that there are other candidates who managed to get a number of votes that prevented either side from getting 50%.
Then in 2012, the NDC picks both sides.
Both sides.
Yeah. Then the MPP back again.
So interesting dynamic. Let's look at 2020 and what happened.
The 2020, you have the MPP still winning again for the presidential, then the parliamentary, the NDC picking again.
So look at the pattern.
So you have
a clear win,
3, 4 here. Then you have
straight win for the NDC in 1996. Straight wins for the MPP in 2000 and 2004. It's a split in 2008. It's a split in 2020. But then a return of the NDC both ways and a return of the MPP in 2016. So when you look at Isikuma Odobeng Brakwa, it tells you that this is a clearly swing split constituency when it comes to both the presidential and the parliamentary votes. You cannot play with a constituency like this. You cannot sit on your oars and think
the MPP having just a slight
everything.
Edge. It's just,
slight edge.
Just 4-3. So
slight edge.
20.
Look at 2008.
Yeah.
49% to, and comparatively, as far as the presidential is concerned, 50.2%. It also tells you that if in 2008 the NDC won in the presidential 50.2%, but dipped and the parliamentary candidate for the MPP won, it also means the skirt and blouse thing happened. Those who voted for the candidate of the NDC in 2008, that is John Evans out at Mills, may he so rest in peace, not all of them voted for the parliamentary candidate.
Yes. The same thing happened in 2020 as well. So 2020, the presidential MPP, but they did not opt for the MPP candidates in this particular instance. They opted for the NDC. And so, I mean, I think we are getting the sense that we've now gone beyond Assin North itself, within the area itself.
Within that catchment
the
area.
MPP still has a slight
It has a bit
advantage,
of an edge.
But there are lots of other factors that tend to move it around in terms of depending on how it goes. And so, what's your answer to that question? Who has the edge?
Well, you know that Global Info Analytics report that came out recently? It gives Charles Opoku a 1.1 percentage point advantage. 1.1 percentage point. But the question is, on voting day, dynamics don't necessarily follow any logic. And you know, according to that same report, about 6 to 7% of the voters are undecided. Now, if those undecided voters get there and they go and do C, NACO, then it could go anywhere. Or if, like you were saying, last minute decisions are made and then they decide, oh, my friend says this and that, so you know what? I think I'll opt for this person or that person. Those could change the dynamics.
And the 6%, they could also be those who, you know, there are some people when you ask them who you are voting for, they don't want to tell you.
They don't want to tell you,
so
but they know.
Decided.
But they know.
So maybe it's actually not a 1% difference. It may be the 6% on the side of the NDC or the side of the MPP.
It would likely be a split. It would likely be a split across the board. But for me, for political watchers, this is going to be one very interesting election because there are so many dynamics to it. One, it will bode well for the party that wins in Parliament. Not that it will create any substantial additions. It's always one or two. But bragging rights, the MPP has already won in Kumewu. Kumewu, though, is a purely MPP seat. So it was a no contest, so to speak. In fact, there was an appreciation of votes for the NDC side. But when you look at this instance where it has swung, and especially on the back of what has happened with James Jachikwason, some of those that we interacted with, they actually said that, guess what? Look, on the back of the way things have happened, we want Jachikwason restored because we feel an injustice was done to him. Others would also be in there and say, you know what, he's not done enough in terms of development. I heard some of them say he had promised that he had come with his own resources and he didn't even need the common fund to be able to facilitate projects and that he had not lived up to expectation. Others say it's because his tenure has been hobbled with all the court issues and all of that. But I'm telling you, this is going to be one election to look out for because some have said that this would indicate whether the MPP is still popular as a government in that area and maybe as a reflection of the national. Others also say if the NDC wins, it shows that the MPP is losing steam and that going to break the 8 is not going to be possible for them. So the dynamics are myriad. I don't know what your permutations are.
I mean, for me, I generally believe that by elections, the biggest outcome is always propaganda value.
Right.
It's just the propaganda.
And that's the whole point, propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, just to make the point that, look, people do not like the MPP anymore.
Yeah.
People are dissatisfied, they're unhappy about how you're managing affairs.
People may not like the NPP as much, but they still prefer the MPP to the NDC. That is if the NDC loses.
If the NDC loses, I mean, possibly. So those are the issues that come out of it. In terms of the realistic, the way we want to extrapolate and look at the 2024 election, I don't always side for it.
I mean, this is a by-election.
Yeah,
you can't expand a by-election to cover.
And I always
the
avoid that
of
because one is constituency specific. The issues are different. So, for instance, can we say that Kumewu, because people are satisfied with the MPP, they voted for the MPP candidates? Certainly no, because it is a strong MPP seat. But there is a danger that it comes with in terms of the by-election in this particular instance. And the challenge that it sometimes comes with is the fact that the incumbent party, they want to get a seat. And on the parliamentary makeup, it may not be significant, but if the MPP gets this seat, it gives them a bit of a breathing room. We all know the challenges they've had with Sarah Asafo.
Right.
Very difficult to get into
the member of parliament they lost, had to replace and all of that. And the difficulties in running government.
They had to bring the chieftaincy minister into an ambulance, the former chieftaincy minister. They had to bring him into an ambulance on the presence of parliament during the approval of the budget, for instance. If they get this seat, it gives them that breathing room. The NDC, on the other hand,
There was even that member of parliament who had an accident who was still dragged to parliament. He had to come.
Yes,
and when you look at the mangled vehicle and all of that.
So this is one that can give them a bit of a breathing room so that you know that you don't have to necessarily have everyone when it's a crucial business to be dealt with.
Right.
The NDC, on the other hand, well, they are in the minority anyways at this point in time. They would want to win it because it is more or less a verdict of sort on what has happened to James Gyakye as well.
Right.
So if indeed what has happened to him is due process of law and the narrative that he has been booted out in an unfair manner it does not sell to the electorate. So if he wins, it means that, look, it is true, he was booted out unfairly. On the other hand, if they vote for Charles Opoku, it means that the people in the constituency, either they don't care about all these issues about whether it's unfair, he has been booted out, they don't care about it, they didn't influence them.
Or maybe they are not happy with James Gyakye's performance in the first place.
But has he even had time to even perform in the first place?
That is the...
He has been ejected for more than a year.
Before I go to Mordecai Kwashi, who is an MC Lejokuku Municipal, I'll be joining you shortly, sir. I just want to find out, the president's comment on the fact that he wasn't influencing the judiciary in any way as far as James Gyakye was concerned. Then he brings up Sakande, you know, the Dramani Sakande issue, and says, look, it's only what befell Sakande that is befalling James Gyakye. But then in another breath, he says, but why would you want to vote for someone who would end up going to court and this and that? And some have read into that, and they say legally, this is like inducing the cause of justice, because you're basically suggesting that this person, don't vote for him, because even if he wins, he will end up in court and likely be stripped of whatever. Again, I mean, what do you make of that?
There are two ways to look at it. So the first way is the point you've made. I've also heard Muntaka Mubarak say that they have a plan should James Gyakye go to jail. He says they will have him hold on to the seat like they did for Abu Dhabi. He says in the even Amwatin case, Amwatin had to resign himself.
Right.
Does that mean that he's suggesting the outcome already? I mean, yes, those comments, if they are taken in terms of substance, they could be deemed to be prejudicial. I've also heard former President John Mahama make the point that James Gyakye will never be jailed.
Right. And that too is another extreme.
Because the court is hearing the matter. So I think that both parties have generally made comments that have put the court under a bit of pressure. Because no matter what the outcome of his prosecution will be, if he is convicted, I mean, it's an assumption. If he is, people will make the point again that the president said it. If he is not, people also make the point that, well, former President Mahama was right. He said he can never be jailed and it's happened. I think that it's generally important that the political actors, especially with the legal process, they just allow it to go on, and they shouldn't necessarily attempt to create the impression or try and predict the outcome. That is what prejudice really is. Any such commentary that makes it very difficult for the court to go about its work in a fair and a judicious manner that we expect it to do. It's a matter in court. There are two possible outcomes. Even three. The state could also discontinue the case. The AG could enter an early press conference and say, I'm not interested again. Or he could be discharged on maybe some technical grounds, or he could be acquitted and discharged, or he could be convicted. I think those are all permutations that are possible. But we should try as much as possible not to put too much pressure on the court to deal with this matter. And that's how come I really respect how the judge hearing the case dealt with the issues surrounding whether the trial should be put on hold or everything. She had set 3 hearing days, says that we'll hear the case daily afterwards.
Right.
Goes to court, they move an application, said, okay, if not been served, let's come the next day. We come the next day, you move the application, said, okay, come for the decision on Friday. Effectively, Friday don't come, he has the time to
go and do your campaigning. Though it had been a hobbled process, he hadn't been able to go. But now, at least I think the reasoning of the court in all of this has been pretty apt, spot on. Allow the person to be able to campaign, do something, because then that would have signaled, okay, the thinking about political influence. Look, they're not even going to allow him to campaign and all of that. So I think it's been pretty above the board so far. Akable, so let's do this. Let's go on the phone lines. Mordecai Kwashi is Municipal Chief Executive, Lejokuku Municipal Assembly. He joins the conversation. Mr. Kwashi, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, sir, and good morning to your...
Great. We know you are passionate about this Asin North by-election that is coming up. Do mention, what is your take on what has happened so far, and what would you say are your expectations ahead of today's vote? In fact, voting should have started by now.
By now. Okay. The first point I'd like to make is that the stakes are extremely high in the take this election, and we as the NPP are putting all we can to ensure that we win the election. The second thing I want to point out is that this is a by-election, and the dynamics are essentially different from what you would have in a general election. The biggest change being that the government is already known. So the people of Assin North would have to take a decision between the options they have. Who is more likely to be able to influence the allocation of resources, developmental resources in their direction? Politics is essentially about power for the purpose of the development or improving the lives of the people. And that is why I think that today they will be making a very fine and a very intelligent choice. The choice today is between ensuring that the development that has probably been held in abeyance because they haven't had a properly active MP, a fully empowered MP, and all of that, that comes to an end, and that in the next 18 months or so, they get their fair share of development because they have an MP who is going to be a critical MP in Parliament and who will ensure that he pulls towards them what they truly and rightly deserve.
Mr. Kwashi, you make mention of their fair share of development. Development doesn't lie with a member of Parliament. Development lies with the DCE, with the MCE. So Absolutely. We have had these for 6.5 years. If the place is not developing, even with the member of Parliament contributing his bit while going to court, would it not then be a failure of the system? Because the DCEs and MCEs are like presidents in their districts and municipalities. What do you say to that?
Yes, but you also know that you need your MP to be able to use his influence as a lawmaker to pull certain development projects in your direction. That is also true. And it's even more important in a parliament that is as tight as we have. If you have your MP being the one who, as it were, holds the string or holds the balance, it is very, very real that you will have influence to be able to do things that if you had an opposition MP, he wouldn't be able to fully do. And that is what the electorate have to take into consideration. And I am confident that they will take all of that into consideration. And by close of date today, we will see an outcome that shows that they have voted for the development.
Mr. Kwashi, thank you so much for engaging us this morning. Mordecai Kwashi is Municipal Chief Executive, Lejokuku Municipal Assembly. Let's now go on to Maxwell Lukuto, the NDC parliamentary candidate for North Tong. Mr. Lukuto actually is in Asen North currently. A very good morning to you, Maxwell.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well, under the circumstances. Anyway, so let's find out. You are the lawmaker for South Tong, I beg your pardon, but you find yourself in Asen North today. I know many members of parliament, like Roxy Nelson Dapia Mepo, the member of parliament for South Dai, among others, are in Asen North today. What is the picture you see on the back of the IGP's visit yesterday, on the back of today and the commencement of voting? What is your reading of the situation?
Yeah, generally security has been beefed up within the whole of the Asin constituency, Asin North constituency, and together with Asin Central and the South. You have a lot of police presence all along the way, the town, within the township, at major junctions, and so that's the basic thing you see. And for me, it stands to reason because there are a lot of barriers you see, barricades, checkpoints, all over. And for me, yes, it's usual with by-elections, but this is supersonic in terms of the police presence. I wouldn't know the intel that police have picked such that they would want to beef up security to that extent. But so far, as I've observed, there has not been any issues demanding serious attention from the security services. I have not yet picked up a chaotic situation that demands their attention, but I want to believe they are playing so fair with all of us. Station where I am observing, we have as many as 11 police officers at one village branch or police station. And usually you see about 1 or 2, but now you have about 11 of them at a particular police station. And but for me, the police are our friend. They are supposed to keep order, and they are protecting all of us. If there are issues, I see them coming in to resolve the issue fairly.
Maxwell, do you feel intimidated by the presence of the police?
Not at all. Not as a person, and we have psyched our people to also understand that the police presence will not intimidate them. We have made them understand that the police naturally are our friends, and so they are only in to keep peace. I don't think that people are being intimidated because you see the lines, long queues very early in the morning. People are trying to vote before they go to the marketplaces. People will vote before they go to their farms, and I don't see people being intimidated.
All right. To wrap the conversation with you, what are your expectations ahead of today's vote? Is the NDC's James Gyakye going to carry the day? Polls have revealed that he likely would be edged out by about 1.1%. What is your reading?
The reading on the ground, we have spoken to the people on the ground, majority of them in their communities, and they see the issue with Assin North and Gyakye as a way of persecuting him wrongly, and that he is their MP, and they also want to continue working with him. The issue about being him, therefore, are not issues people are taking so seriously. Yes, of course, the NPP think that they can use the attend the situation, but what I read on the ground, I see it to be his game. Even though tight as people would call it, but I see it to be Gyakye's game. You see a lot of the MPs moving tirelessly, and I believe that our efforts are going to inure to I believe that Gyakye is going to carry the day. That's my reading on what the situation is.
All right, Maxwell Lukuto, we're grateful for your time, and we'll be hearing from you likely later. He is NDC's parliamentary candidate for South Tong. Let's now get in touch with the Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party. I'm talking about Richard Ahiagba. He's been on the ground. He's still there. Mr. Ahiagba, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hello, Mr. Ahiagba. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Okay, it's a bit better now. I hope your voice isn't sounding like this because you are too tired from campaigning.
Not exactly.
Okay. You've been there for a number of days, if I'm not mistaken, because I've heard you a day or two, interacting with the media. With what you've seen on the ground, what are you looking forward to today when polling comes to an end? What are your expectations?
Well, thank you very much. By close of day today, when all the ballots are counted from all the 99 polling stations, you will be reporting to Ghanaians that the New Patriotic Party has won the Assin North. That will be your report this evening.
Now, in terms of the dynamics, in terms of the use of money to influence the process, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman, has been talking about this moneycracy creeping in and how we have to really get rid of it, that canker. Then we hear of monetary influence in Asen North, and then we see, I don't know whether you've seen that video with Chairman Wuntumi, your Ashanti Regional Chairman, doling out cash. Others have tried to explain away. What is your reading on that vis-a-vis what the Speaker of Parliament said?
That's a good call, generally, because democracy in this nature is to allow for citizens to express their views on the basis of policy and the propositions of political parties. So I think that on balance, that must be protected, and I think it's being protected. But where people are frequently abusing that provision and using money to sway people's decisions, I think that when it's seen, it should be disavowed, and people should speak out against it.
So, he's a member of your party. If you say people should speak against it, what would the leadership of the party, you are Director of Communications, what should the leadership of the party do in instances like this?
No. Oh, but I think the point you were making, you were talking about the speaker. Was that not the speaker's situation you were speaking about? That he is opposed to...
Specifically now, about Chairman Wuntumi. You recall when the NDC had its parliamentary... Okay. When the NDC had its parliamentary primaries, and we saw that lady in a 4x4 vehicle doling out cash, not once but twice. We spoke about it and asked for action to be taken. So in this instance as well, it is actually on your shot if you're watching TV. So what do we do in such instances?
Forgive me, I'm not watching TV as you speak. And the particular video you're talking about, I haven't seen it. And then also there's a need for us to probably speak fast. So I haven't seen that, so I'll be unable to comment on that specific. But I was giving you a general position in the interest of democracy to try to advance the incident where people are voting on a basis of ideas and the propositions of political parties rather than being overtly swayed with other interest considerations to be able to vote. But I'm not speaking directly to what you are alleging has happened on video because I haven't seen that video.
All right, we have video evidence. Maybe later you can take a look at it. Of course, this is streaming live. But I want you to just address this matter for me before you go. Now, there are three contenders in this election. The NDC's contender, the MPP's contender, so James Gyakye, Charles Opoku. Some say it's a straight fight, but of course there's also the LPG's candidate. My question to you, if your candidate, Charles Opoku, loses, what would that mean for the NPP? And if he wins, what would it mean for the NPP?
Well, the if in both cases is if the MPP wins and if the MPP wins. Those are the two conditions that we should be deciding. Because in our mind, the New Patriotic Party will win, given the work we have done. So the other is not a matter for consideration. Certainly, the New Patriotic Party will win. And that will give government an ample space in Parliament to be able to advance its development agenda and accelerate the pace of the economic recovery we are seeking to come, so Ghanaians can get the breathing space to be able to go about our economic activities. As individuals, improve our personal economies and the economies largely to be improved. Yeah. So the two conditions you're saying are just one. If the MPP wins, if the MPP wins, it'll be good for Ghana.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Richard Ahiangba, for joining the conversation. He is Director of Communications with the NPP. Now, you can see in your shot the arrival of Johnson Asiedu Nketia, the chairman of the NDC, and he likely is in one of those voting centers or the polling centers. A rousing welcome he's receiving. Let's now connect with Richard Kwadwo, who is on the ground. Richard, what exactly is playing out currently? Richard Kwadwo, if you can hear me, I'm asking what exactly is playing out. We've seen Johnson Asiedu Nketia there. Walk us through what is happening. Well, there we are. We'll be bringing you the scoop on that situation in Assin North. We just saw Johnson Asiedu Nketia entering the scene there as far as the Assin North by-election is concerned. I still have with me Joseph Akable. We'll just be deliberating on some of the commentary so far that we have heard on the Assin North by-election. So interesting matters. You heard Richard Akiangba. I gave him the options. I told him, should the MPP win? Should the MPP lose? What are going to be the dynamics? He says there's only one option. The MPP is going to win. I mean, all of them will try and play this until it's like a fight. Everyone will say we are going to win until one person's jaw is shifted and all of that.
Before we go to bed, everyone will see the smoothness level. But I mean, it's that of confidence, and you can understand why. I mean, they've done a lot of projects in the area in the last couple of weeks, right from when they even before the seat was declared vacant. The MPP had pitched camp there. I remember the NDC had made the allegation that why are they all of a sudden showing up there when the Supreme Court had not come out with this judgment? Why are they doing that when the court, the parliament had not declared the seat vacant as well? But nonetheless, they went there, started campaigning, they started constructing roads. The vice president went to commission a 32-kilometer route. I mean, we've all had this discussion back and forth about how politicians deliver development only during by-elections or periods around by-election. But that notwithstanding, it still happens. As to whether that has an impact, we can look to various places for examples. I mean, Ayawaso West Wagon, even though it was violent, a few weeks prior, they were asphalting the roads in that area. The MPP managed to keep that seat. They did the same thing in Kumewu. But what makes this one a bit different is the dynamics of the constituency. And like we've demonstrated over the period with the data that we have, it shows that it's a place that, depending on how good you play your game, you can win a seat. And that is how come the MPP and the NDC.
And one thing
There's
I
an
noticed.
LPG candidates, by the way.
Yeah, the LPG. I made mention of it. 3 of them. Yeah. So definitely 2 people are going to lose today. 2 people are going to be on the losing end. There'll be only 1 winner.
There'll be 2 winners.
How so?
So when after the election, the losing candidate always says Ghana won.
Well,
so there's Ghana winning, then there's the actual winner, then there are those who
that's an interesting dynamic. But one thing I've noticed that really stood out for me, you see how in the US, for some electoral areas and all of that, it was so feisty between the Republicans and the Democrats that you would see maybe former President Trump, or you would see a lot of bigwigs come, or you would see a Joe Biden and others, senators, bigwigs show up. In this instance, it's so big. We saw the former president, Mahama, there. We've seen the current president there. We've seen stalwarts of both sides. This election, make no mistake, it's crucial.
Very.
It's crucial.
I mean, very. And I mean, you could see the message that was put out there by the president, for instance. Beyond, I mean, what has been trending all week has to do with the comments about Judge Kwesi. But he made an interesting point. He says that, look, you voted for me here. He said, I won here.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't vote for my party.
It goes back to the skirt and blouse pattern we were talking about.
Says, you voted for me here.
Yeah.
So this is who I'm asking you to vote for this time.
Yeah.
Vote for that person. Then you have Mr. Mahama also make the point that, look, government has failed in terms of the economy. They are not doing well. This is an opportunity to show them that you can decide what you want for yourself. And especially when all of a sudden they are doing projects and everything. So, I mean, both sides, like I said, propaganda value is expensive. Like it is cheap but very valuable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't need
on the
much
back of
effort
this,
to do it. But when you get it, it helps.
Joe, on the back of this, whichever party wins is going to run with it.
Yes, of course.
They are going to run with it.
Yes.
And we know the dynamics, but we'll be interacting with those political party members when we get there. For now, though, let's bring back Richard Kwejunyako. He's on the ground in Assin North. Richard, if you can hear me now, what exactly is happening? We just saw Johnson Asiedu Nketia entering the fray. What is happening where you are?
Apart from Johnson Asiedu Nketia, there are other big national figures that have also come here to observe the process. So gone by was the 2020 running mate of the NDC, Professor Jena Opoku-Agyeman. We've also seen Marietta Biruapio, former Attorney General. We've also seen NPP bigwigs who have been moving from one polling station to the other. I must say that the process has been generally smooth, especially at the centers. There is some kind of calm because the security agencies are here to ensure order. But outside the precinct of the voting area, that is where on few occasions we witnessed some skirmishes, we witnessed allegations and counter allegations of vote buying. A short while ago there were some heated exchange between the minority leader KC Latuforsen and one NPP panel member on same subjects about the fact that there is a sharing of 300 Ghana cedis, 500 Ghana cedis, 200 Ghana cedis by both political parties. And so that has been the issue here. But apart from that, things have generally run smooth. The Electoral Commission set the stage around 7 a.m. the elections had started already, and people started forming the queues around 6:05. At 6:05, I could count at one of the polling centers, I could count about 32 of the people already queuing, waiting eagerly to cast their ballot. And so generally, it's been smooth. Don't forget that there are 99 of such polling stations here in the Assin North constituency, and we have over 40,000 plus voters that are waiting anxiously to vote. Now, when Professor Jenano Pokwajiman visited some of the centers, she indicated that she was very, very happy with the turn of events, and she prayed that it will continue to be like that to ensure that there will be some smooth exercise that would end peacefully as well. Other people are also here, and they've been also saying the same thing, sharing the same sentiment that Professor Jenano Pokwajiman about the process. They feel that the process has generally been smooth. Ben.
From you, there have been accusations of vote buying, money exchanging hands. Have you, with your cameras, been able to capture anything related to that? The claims that are being made?
Well, the closest that we have come, the closest that we have come to this allegation of vote buying is when we saw some people wearing some Wellington boots, and we're told that yes, these were part of the resources that were being shared as part of this by-election, but we've not captured the sharing of money.
The Wellington boots.
Captured the sharing of money from either the MPP or the NDC, and so there are Wellington boot, bags of rice, DSTV decoders, we have oil, cooking oil, and other things as well. So these are some of the things that we have heard, but we cannot verify because our cameras have not captured, and we do not have any shred of evidence about these allegations from both sides of the political divide.
So which side makes this allegation of the distribution of Wellington boots, oil, DSTV decoders, among others? Which side is making the allegation?
Well, so generally, a lot of these allegations are coming from the NDC. In fact, they started, the people that started were some supporters perceived to be NDC. They said that there was a house, and so they pointed to a house that these monies were being shared, and so it prompted the security agencies who went to the house, but there was nothing really, there was no outcome as to whether they indeed found some people sharing money. But apart from that, it is not only the NDC that has been accusing the MPP, but the MPP have also been accusing them that, well, if they are sharing, then it means that you are also sharing and all of that. So it's from both sides, and we cannot say that it's only the NDC that is sharing or the MPP that's sharing. But you see generally that the people that are waiting in the queues are excited, they are eager, they want their terms to start speaking now because it's been weeks of campaigning, heated campaigning, and now is the D-Day. By close of day today, we should find whether the NDC's Operation Maintain worked or the MPP Operation Recapture the Seat will also work. And so that is what generally appears to be an issue now.
Richard, before you take leave of us, I spoke earlier to Ohiming Teria, who interacted with a few of those going to vote. Now it would be difficult to do that. But at the time, polling hadn't started. And from the sentiments, you got a picture of where some of them were going to vote, which candidate they would vote for. For you, were you able to do that? And what sentiments did you gather if you were able to do that?
Well, Well, so it's been from both sides. You meet other people that are saying that, well, we want to still go with Joe Kwesi because he's been frustrated. He came to help us. He's been frustrated, so we'll still go with him. There are others too that say that, well, Joe Kwesi did not tell us the truth. In fact, when he contested in 2012, 2016, he at that time did not renounce his citizenship, and so based on that, we are going to vote against him. So it's been from two of the sides. But where we are currently standing is Asen Breku, where the two candidates come from. In fact, we are waiting anxiously at the polling center where Joe Kwesi will be casting his ballot. He's not been here yet, but there are big wigs of his political party that have come to visit the polling stations to ascertain whether things are running normally. But for Charles Opoku, we all know that he does not have a vote in this constituency, and so there is no polling station that has been identified for him to vote at because he has no vote. For Bernice of the LPG, we are yet to identify where she is going to vote at, and so that is currently what's happening here.
Richard, I was engaging Ben earlier. We're talking about the importance of Asin Breku, how crucial it is to the outcome of the by-election. In terms of your interaction with the people there and being in that particular area as well, do you get a sense that if they do the counting in that area and the results come in, that will give us a picture of who may be likely to win in this particular exercise?
Yeah, so it is not only Asin Breku, but it appears that the voting pattern of the communities or the towns that are dotted along the main Asin Fosu, Asin Praso highway, they have a voting pattern. Most of the time they side with the New Patriotic Party, and then the hinterlands will go with the NDC. But now Asin Breku has become very significant in this by-election because Joe Kwesi comes from here. His house is just 200 meters away from where I stand. Charles Opoku is also hails from here. His house is about 100 meters away from where I currently stand. And we have people that have come out to say that, well, Charles Opoku, even when he had not even conceived of contesting in any political position, he has been supporting them. A case in point they make is the district assembly. You know, this district was carved out of the Asin Fosu municipality, and so he gave his house out for them to use temporarily, pending the time that the assembly or the district will have the resources to put up a facility. They also tell us about some of the things, the boreholes that have been drilled by his organization in the hinterlands within the Asen North constituency. If you go to Joe Kwesi, they say that, well, he started very, very well until the court cases started where he was distracted. But even so, they point to the street lights that they enjoy at night, that Asin Breku used to be very dark, and so he procured a street light for them to put on all these light poles, for which reason they say that had it not been the frustration he's going through or suffered, he would have done a lot. So the argument, they make a case for each of the candidates, and they say that it is for this reason that we will go for this person or that person. So Asin Breku is one key area that we are looking for. It is the turf on which this by-election will be fought. And by close of day, should Asin Breku fall to either the MPP or the NDC, then we will safely conclude that the election has been won by the political party that wins Asin Breku.
Richard Kwesi, we're grateful that you were able to bring us the scoop from Asin Breku in the Asin North constituency. That is Richard Kwesi. Interesting picture there, because Asin Breku is where these two gentlemen hail from. I'm talking about James Kwesi. I'm also talking about Charles Opoku. So indeed, like you were mentioning, whoever wins that turf, that polling station, would have some upper hand on the other candidates, because there's also Bernice of the LPG. But very quickly, before we come in with an interaction, let me bring in Musa Dankwa. Musa Dankwa is with Global Info Analytics, and they've been coming out with a number of projections on the parliamentary and presidential front. Mr. Dankwa, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, too.
Thank you for having me.
The latest poll that you came out with on Assin North projected the MPP's candidate, Charles Opoku, to win by 1.1 percentage points. How long ago was this? How relevant is this poll to today's election?
Right. Let me make one correction. We didn't say he's going to win by 1.1%, I'm afraid. We said he was leading by 1.1%, with 6.9% of people undecided. The poll was carried out between 23rd and 26th June, just 2 days ago.
So
he leads by 1.1%.
Right. And what does that imply? What are the implications for today's voting, especially with that 6 to 7% component of undecided voters? Is it too close to call?
Well, it is too close to call, but let's go back a bit of history in Asen North in the last 4 weeks. The first time we polled there, Charles was leading 67% to 38%. And the last poll, they had hit to 46.7%. He has lost almost 18% in the last 4 weeks to where we are today. And per our calculations, he was losing 1% every day. So you could see that the momentum is with Electorate.
The momentum is with Jachikwason.
Yes.
Why? Why do you say that?
It is because consistently, week on week, he has been appreciated in the polls while Charles has been declining.
So Jachikwason has been appreciating in the polls. Charles Opoku has been depreciating, declining in the polls. That is why you think Kwason has some sort of edge.
Yes.
But
and also, in the top 5 electoral areas, that contributes 38% of the vote. The Electorate is leading in 3 of them.
So how many are they? And you say Jachikwason is leading?
18 electoral areas.
Okay, and Jachikwason is leading in how many?
In the top 5, that contributes 38% of Asen North votes. The Electorate is leading in 3 of them.
So in the top 5, he's leading in 3. I have 2 key questions for you. Asin Breku is crucial to this election because both gentlemen hail from there. In fact, in the last election, it is attributed to this. Part of why Jachikwason won was that he was a Doyen, he was from there. And so there was massive support. How does that affect today's polling? And how do you respond also to the fact that, according to the same report, it has suggested that the electorate is generally buying into the MPP's campaign message in Assin North. So what you're telling me versus this, there appears to be some disparity.
Absolutely. But from what we have seen, I don't think they are buying the MPP's message. And I'll tell you why.
They are not buying into the MPP's message?
No. Let's look at the breakthrough, which is crucial. At the moment, Charles is leading 48%, it's equating 39%. 12% of people in breakthrough are undecided. So they could take the race anyway. Now, for Charles to win and win big in a breakthrough, he has to do so to strengthen his position across the constituency. Now, the key area for me to look at today will be Kushia, where Charles is currently leading by 78%. And that is quite huge. So whatever happens in Beku, they could split the vote in the middle. But then it's Kushia that will determine really who really wins the race.
I mean, Mr. Dankwa, I'm looking at your poll results and I'm just curious. In terms of, it appears you conducted a series of polls leading to today. Were they the same participants you engaged or different participants?
No. Voters have put a cross-sectional report across the constituency. It is likely some will have been picked a second time, but they put the constituency on those periods and interview people in all the electoral areas. And the report we have shared is a cross-sectional report.
Yeah, I mean, I was asking this because of the point about the fact that the lead that Mr. Opoku had was declining over the period, and the efficacy of the message that the MPP was putting across in the area, whether it was going down to the people to make the point that if it's cross-sectional and at any point in time you had the option of maybe not picking the same people, then it could mean that may not be necessarily the right conclusion to reach. I mean, about the appropriateness of the message going down. Wouldn't you agree with that?
No, let me give you two reasons from the poll. You see, cross-sectional report is the views of the people that you pick, not necessarily from the same people, and it's allowed in the same message.
Yes, right.
Now, we ask people whether the work the government has done would influence them in the decision. 70% of them said no, including MPP supporters. Majority of MPP supporters said no. NDP said no. Other parties said no, including floating voting.
So maybe, is there more light you want to throw on that answer? Is there anything else you want to add on that?
Yes. I mean, what is really tilting the case towards Charles has been Charles' own personality. He is a popular candidate in the constituency. No doubt about it. In the first poll that we did that he led, people were citing who he is and what he's been doing. So declining in the polls is not because of Charles. It's because of what the strategy MPP has adopted in Asin North that is affecting Charles' chances.
I didn't quite get that. What is affecting Charles's chances?
It is the campaign strategy the MPP has adopted in Asin North that is impacting on Charles.
Which is what?
Right. In the first poll, the baseline poll, we asked people a particular question, which we presented last Sunday. We asked them if they were offered money, an inducement to vote for a candidate, what action would they take? 31% said they would take the money and vote for the candidate. 44% said they would take the money and vote against the candidate. Now, on Sunday, those metrics have changed. Now you have 78% saying they will take the money and vote for the candidate. And 60% said they will take the money and vote against the candidate. And within this time, this is when Charles has declined. It means that people were taking the money, telling you that they will vote for you, but in other sense, they will not vote for you.
That is an interesting dynamic.
Yes. If it allows Charles to campaign on his own with the little support from the party, Charles will not be in the position that he is today.
All right. So Mr. Dankwa, just to cap off the conversation, I think your point is made, the thrust of it. Just to cap off the conversation, it is too close to call. You have already made mention of that. But if you had to stick your neck out as a poster, as someone who has gone to the ground, which candidate would you say likely would carry the day today?
From the data we see and the trajectory of the race, I would go for James Jachikwesin.
You would go for James Jachikwesin?
Yes.
Musa Dankwa, we're grateful for your time this morning. When all of this is said and done, we'll come to you and see what your take will be on it. Musa Dankwa is with Global Info Analytics. Joseph,
Ben, just
interesting conversations we've had.
Yes, I mean, just a quick point on the sampling I was pointing out.
Right.
Because they did a series of polls. They didn't administer one poll. They said they did a number of polls. So my question was that if it's a cross-section selection,
right,
it means that what you may be seeing to be a decline may not necessarily be a decline.
Right.
Because if you talk to Ben today and Ben says, I'll vote for James Jachikwesin, and you talk to Ben again, then he says, I'll vote for Charles Opoku, you can see that the message has maybe changed.
Right.
But if it is in the nature of you are not tracking whether you are getting the same people, then it means that it's simply impossible to tell. And so the point again becomes that what the poll only shows is that over the period of the polls that you were conducting,
right,
it appears that those you were interacting with, the outcome of it was changing this way. It was changing this way.
Right.
As against the fact that saying that, okay, look, it appears the NPP strategy over the period is not working. Because until you have the same permutation, it's very difficult to know for certain that that is not working.
So what the dynamic is in statistics or research like this, the likelihood, unless you have a fixed group that you're going to be speaking to from time to time, it becomes difficult. But the strategy he is using is firmly within the script. And they do that once it's in the catchment area and they're using different people. Of course, they can extrapolate and say that this is what
the message not working over the period by virtue of the fact that there's a decline in the gap between.
You have a point
the challenge there.
But he also has a point from the research point of view that they would use different people and then use the same metrics to apply that they used to Group 1 to apply to them. But what you're saying is also crucial because you're not speaking to the same set of people. So you would not know whether among the first catchment group there's any change in there. But for you, from all of what you've heard this morning, from the data we brought to our viewers, from the different people we've spoken to, Maxwell Lukuto, the other gentleman, the Lejokuku member of the assembly, among others that we've interacted with this morning, they are all digging their heels in and saying, my side will win. But Joe,
I mean,
you know on the ground.
No, it's interesting. Before we went to do the interactions, I actually asked you, who has the edge? That was a question I actually asked you. You're asking me the same question again. I think it's too close to call. I mean, if I'm
too close to call,
too close, yeah. Too close.
This one, it's on a knife edge.
Knife edge, yeah. Too close to call. I think I'll wait and see the outcome.
You know, this is one of the most, for me, throughout following politics, the political landscape in Ghana, this, for me, is one of the most exciting, most anticipated by-elections, or even, let me say, parliamentary elections, for me, for a while. Because the sort of fervor, political fervor, the sort of commitment, resources that have been put into Assin North, I'm just waiting to see. But my final bit, Joe, I wish the political parties, the NDC and the NPP, would not wait till it was a by-election or something to do the right thing and make constituencies feel they actually were worth it. Yeah. We've seen it in Kumau, we are seeing it in Asen North. Why can't we be this excited and get things done in the constituencies rather than wait when you need the vote, then you'll be running around like...
I agree with you. I think it's something that we need to deal with once and for all. People deserve development and they have the power. That is how come they are going into houses and sharing all sorts of things.
Anyway, this is how we cap off the conversation this morning. Our initial conversation on MSMEs. But for now, it's all the hard politics. We are heading to Asin North. We are on the ground. Stay with us. We are your election headquarters. And this fine gentleman here will also be coming along as we give you the analysis on the Asin North by-election. From us to you, we wish you the very best. And Joy News Desk up next.